Las Vegas. And I'm sure that the Acton community joins the town council in extending our prayers and thoughts to the victims and survivors.
One of our friends that lives here in Acton and has for 25 years, their son's a firefighter, LA County Fire, and he was raised by a bullet on his leg.
He was there?
He was there with his
Oh,
wife.
yeah, my daughters knew people that were there.
Yeah.
One girl was in surgery and.
I'll say prayer for the fumble after that, for all of them.
Okay, let's move on. First item on the agenda is community comments. Do we have any?
I do, if I may.
Please.
First, I want to address you all and thank you all for your incredible patience and ability to serve. At one point, I was Vice President of the Acton Town Council. My name is Ken Whiff. I live at 35402 31st Street West, which is up Crown Valley. And I simply did not have your patience or your civility. I'm remarkably impressed by you. Jackie is basically,
She's a force to
you know,
be
the
reckoned
bulldog of the world, and I have enormous respect for her and what she does. I compliment you. I really do.
Thank you.
I'm very impressed by what you do. I have three concerns, which one of which is rather trivial. I would ask a question almost, do the community standards permit an electronic billboard? That's the question.
All billboards are prohibited.
Pardon me?
All billboards are prohibited.
Well, is AV recreational vehicles in Acton?
For storage or for on your own property?
No, for the RV, AV RV.
There are a number of billboards that have popped up.
Right, and they have an electronic billboard, which I noticed about a year ago, and it's gradually been increasing.
Now, where exactly is that?
This is at AV RV, recreational vehicle.
Where's the location?
And it's out.
Soledad?
It's a big RV place.
All Valley?
Yeah, it's
All Valley RV?
Yeah, All Valley RV. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
okay, we're Mesa.
Yeah.
What's up there in Sierra?
Yeah, it's South Sierra Highway, that way, not that way. That's Crown Valley going
Between
north.
Soledad and Santiago, and the Soledad
Yeah.
offering.
When
Yeah.
you see from the freeway.
If someone could
They have an
kind of,
electronic billboard?
pardon me?
They have an electric billboard, okay.
I've never noticed it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, they have right now a large TV set, which they've mounted on their wall. And I have noticed, hello Pam. Do I need to compliment Pam, or should I go back and repeat that or not? I just complimented the whole council for the wonderful service. And you missed it. So, okay, that's the way it goes. So anyway, I would suggest that maybe we want to look at that, and
Yeah.
because the damn thing keeps growing a little bit. Eventually, it's going to be a full size.
I'm surprised I've never noticed that.
It's, you know what? It's you have to look, but it's there. And
It's on the
you,
wall, the retaining
yeah,
wall.
it's up on their wall, and it's
The block
facing
wall?
north. This is the All Valley RV. It has a little electronic billboard on it.
So if you're traveling north, you see it, or if you're traveling south, you see it?
you do.
Yeah, they've had it up for about a year.
It's on their
Or
block
more.
wall?
Hmm?
Is it on their block wall?
Yeah, it's on the block wall. As you're coming
coming towards that.
south, you can see it.
Okay.
So I kind of looked at that and I went, wait a minute, guys, come on. So the other reason I'm here is because I am an aspiring pot grower, or not, mainly not. We have a couple addresses that have just moved in on Crown Valley. And I would like the council to be aware that 35555 Crown Valley, which is across from Bill's old place.
Bill Davis?
Huh?
Bill Davis?
Yeah, Bill Davis's old place. They have recently moved in, and we think are planting or starting to plant. I do know that they locked their gate and put up a sign that said video surveillance. So you all know me, so you don't, but she does. So I basically pull up there every day and flip the bird and leave. But I'm thinking I'm thinking that they're yeah, aren't you lucky I'm not here, Jesse? It just so relieves you of embarrassment. That's great. So anyway, so there is some activity there that's interesting. And then at 35044 Crown Valley, which is
044 350.
it's 35044. It's Joe's old place. I don't know Joe's last name. Do you know his last name? You might.
Which Joe?
Joe was the guy who was like at 94, fell off a ladder and broke 3 ribs and kept working. So they came in and they threw up a structure, and we managed to get a hold of code enforcement, and code enforcement says, yeah, don't do that. You don't have a permit for it. The structure's too big. So now they've reinstituted 2 new structures. Now, if I'm not mistaken,
Are these like stick-built structures, or are they like Quonset houses?
well, the first one they put up was basically a pole barn.
A pole barn.
A pole barn, and it was basically, it was 20 feet by 40 feet, easily, which is, it has to be permitted, obviously. So they had put that up. So I guess code enforcement went out there and gave them a correction notice, and they didn't do anything, and they went back the next day and made them take it down. So they took it down. So, excuse me, it's been a long time. Excuse me. I need to do this. It's good to see you. So they took it down, and now what they've done, there's been a couple things. They've erected 2 new structures, and counting the panels, they are about 12 by 20, which is more than is permitted by code.
Each is 12 by 10.
You could put up 57, 58 square feet, I think, without a permit. You don't need, that's legal. But these are not legal structures. Plus, I'm trying to remember what the setbacks are. I think in front you have a 35-foot setback, right?
50.
Huh?
50.
50. And what are the sides?
35.
What are they?
Except for.
35. What size are?
Well, then they are well
yeah, except
over
for-
that. They are right up against their fence. So I don't know if we have anybody from the county here, but, and we'll go ahead and we'll, those of us, Crown Valley is a busy bunch of little people. We really are. We watch everything.
Are you talking North Crown Valley?
Yeah, North
Yes.
Crown Valley,
Okay.
yeah.
Except,
Up in the dirt.
one thing, and this has come up several times in the last 15, 20 years, that the way the county chooses to interpret the setback provisions is that it does not apply them
Right.
to accessory buildings, which is, I don't know if you remember,
Well-
but some, like 12, 13 years ago, when that large barn popped up on Crown Valley South.
Sure.
And it was 5 feet from the wall, and it was
Right.
because it was in their backyard, or, so in
I'll
certain
tell you what,
cases, it can
Jackie,
be
it
just
sure
5
hell
feet away.
applied to me when I wanted to put my solar panels within 15 feet of my property line.
Yeah, well.
And they said, no, you can't do that. And so I had to relocate everything, which I did, because I was on the council then, otherwise I would have bullshitted in. So-
We had a lady in here a couple meetings back, a young gal that was leasing property up there at the top of Crown Valley, almost to the end. And she said that she was under the impression that it was commercially zoned.
It
And
is.
I believe it's.
Actually, it's not commercially zoned, it's A3, I think.
Perhaps A2.
Huh?
A2, I think.
A2 perhaps?
According
Maybe
to
A2.
the, well, looking at regional planning, everything's A2 up there, but I could be wrong. Anyway, she was under the impression that she had the perfect location to grow hemp. Now, I'm not experienced.
I believe that's
I'm not
marijuana. I'm not sure.
I'm not experienced in hemp, but it could look very much like marijuana, and if they're planting it outdoors, that could be the same young gal, if they've only been in there a
Let
short
me tell you
while.
something. Hemp is marijuana, period.
Well,
Let's say that.
they're
Also-
cousins of each other.
It doesn't have the.
Believe me, you all need to understand, I was in the Hague during the Summer of Love. I'm familiar with marijuana. I'm not offended by marijuana, okay? What I'm offended by is people coming up and wanting to do a commercial grow
Which is
without the
wrong.
proper
Right.
controls. And honestly, and this is prejudice, I think, on my part, I'm afraid we're gonna get a bunch of haydoos up there. So now, and I'm not gonna say this in public, now I don't lock my house. I don't want to be in a position where suddenly I have to lock my damn house because I'm worried about the hay dudes.
What's
Okay?
a-
And
what's
so
a
that's
hay
why I'm
dude?
coming, huh?
What's a hey dude?
What's a hay dude?
Oh,
He's
hey
close,
dude.
but not quite.
I thought hey dude, like a sea-doo or a
So,
sea-doo.
yeah, it's just guys who are a little loose in their approach to life.
Well, we've put in some extensive comments to the county on if commercial grow and production operations are to be permitted, where should they go? So, and my understanding is the county is at this point not inclined to allow commercial grow operations of anything.
That's
even-
correct.
Even
On-
if it's hemp,
on-
on A1 or A2 property, or
On-
non-industrial property outdoors.
Right.
So,
On February 3rd, they said no grow, right? They passed that ordinance on February 3rd. And but the law is for personal use, I can grow 6 plants
Right.
as long as it's not visible to the public. Now, here's the thing, here's a challenge for us. Okay, I happen to be growing 120 plants, but I'm a co-op. All right?
we asked the gentleman about that, and they said, nope, same thing.
Okay, I hope so. I don't know, Jackie, I hope that's the
Even
case.
for personal use,
Yeah.
it's still, it's on a per parcel base, so 6 plants, even if 500 people own that parcel, it's not gonna be
6 plants is 6 plants.
6 plants for each of the 500.
And we tried to explain to that young gal that thought she was gonna have a commercial hemp grow for, she said for cat litter and clothing and
Oh,
things like that.
give
We're
me
saying,
a
that's
break.
not zoned, that's not zoned for a commercial grow for anything.
Sure.
Even apples, I mean,
Sure.
it's just not, you know? And
Sure.
she was under the misconception that it was, we said, you better go home and check with your property owner, because she
Correct.
wasn't the owner. And
Well,
that's
she's a
kind of
leaser.
where that
She
was-
leases,
She
yeah.
was leasing.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering if they're going ahead and they're planting their hemp,
That's the
they're
smart
I
not,
don't know.
it's hemp, and I've looked it up and it doesn't fall under the same regulations as cannabis.
You know, let's let her grow some hemp and go in there and test her THC levels and see what it is. But I guarantee it's gonna be marijuana, and it's gonna be a commercial grow, because that's where the money is. Now, these guys further on down in Joe's old place have actually moved in an additional water tank, and they have moved in a generator.
Do they have a well, another well? Have they
I
set up
don't
another
know,
well?
they should have a well, because they're in the bottom
No,
of the
I mean a
valley, they
second-
should have all kinds of water,
But
they
a
have.
second well. I mean.
But they brought in a second tank, and they've got a big generator there, which means that they can generate their own power for their own, and Edison will not see it, and what happens is Edison sees a sudden spike in energy use, and they alert the authorities.
What size generator is it? Because it would need an AQMD permit.
Oh, I have no idea, I haven't,
Like bigger than 50 horsepower?
oh, God, yes.
Well, then it needs an AQMD.
It's a
permit.
big, I don't know if it's a military surplus or not, but sitting on the base, it's like 4 feet wide and 12 feet long.
Well, I think it's.
Well, come on up, I'll show you.
I think the regional planning would, get the ball rolling on this. I mean, honestly, this is what we're gonna have, is gonna be the Wild West in Acton. People are gonna be interpreting this ordinance any way they want to interpret it. And until the county comes in and starts really nailing down enforcement, that was a big fear people commented on in the survey, was they were worried about lack of enforcement. You know, the regulations will be there, but who's gonna enforce it?
Yeah.
So if we right away get on the county and say, come out and check this out, before they even get a chance to get those plants.
You know, I
Doing
think the
anything.
county will be responsive. I think they will be responsive. Code enforcement will be responsive, and eventually you'll get the NAC guys out there, and they're like completely over the top, but they take care of the problem. You
Well,
know?
they're completely over the top in places.
I'm sorry?
where they shouldn't. They're completely over the top in places where they shouldn't be,
Yeah.
but that's another
Yeah.
story.
So can you think it's the same issue with both of those properties that you,
Pardon me, sir?
it's the same issue with both of those properties?
I
that
think
you-
so. I haven't, yes.
Okay, now the county, when we've been to meet with the county, they told us, we'll listen to you, town council, but we really want citizen complaints. We want complaints
And we're doing
from
that.
people
Yeah,
from
we're
the
doing
community.
We're doing that.
Okay.
But you guys do have a lot of weight, actually. They do listen to the town council if you say something. I actually have another thing I want to mention to you. There's been an ongoing problem with people either squatting or wanting to live up Governor Mine Road.
Just a minute, you said 3 things.
I know, I'm. You want me to wait for somebody
this is
else
the
to go,
third
and I'll
thing.
come back?
Yeah, this is the
So this guy parks his trailer up there, and what he does is he comes in, I need to call illegal dumping. And because people can see his trailer, he dumped a bunch of dirt in front of it. So now you can't see the comings and going in front of his trailer. This is way up Governor Mine Road. Now, Sonny Messner, who is my neighbor, who has binoculars and who's old like me and can't sleep with the beans, sees coming and going all night there, 3 a.m., stuff like that. So I don't know if Scott's here, but he's not. So if Scott was here, I'd say Scott, Scott's looked at it before, and there's a process.
They've gotten people thrown out of that area. 'cause
A
people-
couple times.
for the
And the
yeah.
guy's
Is it
back.
the same
and when
guy?
I'm worried about the barrier. He literally has dumped soil in front of his trailer, so you cannot see his trailer. If you go up just past the mailboxes on Crown Valley and look up at the thing, you'll see there's a
Right.
brand new.
My husband's a big hiker.
Pardon
and
me, ma'am?
He goes up that way. My husband's a hiker. He goes up that way.
Yes.
And he saw them bringing in big loads of dirt in there.
Sure.
Dumping it,
Yeah.
like big loads of dirt. So he said to the guy that was there, he says, hey, he goes, hey, how you doing? He goes, man, and my husband says, what are you doing? You building a house or, what are you doing? Just curious, what's going on? He goes, mind your own business.
Exactly right.
So that is a red flag. And we called the county,
Yeah.
and they're like, oh yeah, we'll check it out.
And that is precisely what happened with our hemp growing friend, is that one of the neighbors went by, and the neighbors tend to go by and talk to people, just to talk to people, but we're not unfriendly, we're not, and so he goes by, Gary Dodd, goes by and said, hey, I'm Gary Dodd, I live here, what are you doing? And they said, you want to stay away from here.
Oh,
wow.
really?
So we don't need that.
No, we don't.
We don't need it. It's
You
a-
want to stay away from here?
Yeah, they threaten it, basically. So,
Really?
and that's hearsay, not admissible, anything else. But, I know Gary, and he's the kind of guy that will reach out. So anyway,
People that are not up to good intentions usually get answers.
so I brought up 3 things and added a 4th. You don't have to consider the 4th, because I said 3.
What's the fourth?
Anyway, thank you both. Thank you all. Thank you for your service.
Oh, that was-
I
I consider that the
two,
third.
the two
Yeah.
Crown Valley residences to be
The same.
one item. So actually you had 3, items, not four.
I've abused my position.
You have not.
I know you have.
Thank you all.
Thank you so
Came in
much.
under, came in at 3.
Does somebody want to call, Public Works on the big pile of dirt dumped and regional planning on these other 2?
I can give you guys an update on illegal dumping, if it's on Soledad Canyon.
Okay, that would be great.
Okay, so when I was on the council, I was the public works liaison with the roads and such, and so Soledad Canyon, if anyone hasn't noticed, they have been dumping and dumping and dumping all over the place. And then they started going down our private roads, and they dumped.
Who's they? Do you know who they are?
Well, I could start with these 2 gentlemen. I brought these in for you guys. These 2 guys here. And if no one knows how dumping works with the trucks, is that you'll have brokers, so there'll be one guy that sits at a desk, he's the broker. I would call him and say, hey, I'm doing a project, I have 100 loads of dirt I need out of here, how many trucks can you get me tomorrow? I'm gonna say I'll send 10 trucks over. All the truck drivers are independents. The broker hires the truck drivers independently and says, go take this dirt here, then they go, where do you want us to dump it? And he'll go, take it to this house over here on Mary Hill Road. Or he'll say, hey, just
But
make
will that house have asked for the dirt?
Okay, and this is what they're doing. If you look at the flyer, what they were doing on my area over off of Bootlegger, the reason I found out is I graded our road and cut in a drainage ditch on the side, and I came back that afternoon and there was a 10-yard pile of dirt in the drainage ditch. And the guy was stuck with his truck in the dirt, blocking the entire road, and I had 6 neighbors backed up behind me. So I get out and I said, who the hell are you? And he says, oh, well, your neighbor said that you needed dirt on the roads to help you with the erosion and stuff, and we're bringing a bobcat over to fix the roads for you. And I'm looking at this dirt. We've got clean sand and gravel. All this goes straight into our wells. And this is a pile of asphalt that looked like it had been a bad driveway with diesel in it, and another pile was over here that was all red clay that would be slippery. when
Do you have
driving
a
through it.
picture of that, those?
That I had to clear off, and I threatened the guy, and he came over and said, oh yeah, we'll get it cleaned up. The next day he came back, half was hauled off, and half was pushed into bushes and mixed up with the other dirt. That actually guy I got a hold of, and he says, oh, well, yeah, we don't want any problems, I won't come back there. But what he had done is the reason he was coming on there is he stopped someone and they said, hey, do you need dirt? Or your neighbor said we needed dirt. And the other neighbor says, who, Joe? And he goes, yeah, Joe. So suddenly this guy's using Joe's name up and down the road, and they dumped probably 15 loads.
Is there a
down.
Joe?
Yeah, there is a Joe. When Joe found out, he wanted to go kill someone.
I can also add though, that where my son lives on Bansom, they did go house to house asking if you wanted dirt.
Yeah. So here's what's going on is they're coming
They
in.
don't have cars.
And what I found out was Leonard behind me then, there's a load on his steep hill, and I go, Leonard, what are you doing? That's all clean. He goes, and Leonard doesn't live on his property. He's about 87 years old. He comes out during the day and does his weeding, and he's got a little trailer on there. He'll spend the afternoons in, and he goes back home. So he said, somebody stopped him on the road the other day and says, you need any dirt? And Leonard's property's up high, and he's got lots of rocks. And he said, well, I'll take a load of good soil dirt if you got it. When he came back, there was 12 loads dumped on his property. 6 was broken concrete and asphalt. They had told him they'd come back and spread it out with the Bobcat, and they never showed back up again. So they're coming in, they're using neighbors against each other. So finally I had to form the posse on my area. I went to every single neighbor. They all said, no, we didn't ask for any of this. I then put a sign up at the riverbed where it crosses the river because we had 2 roads. One of them was a little higher than the other, and this one had washed out. I put a sign there, no dumping, no trucks. I came back 3 hours later, the sign was stolen, and there was 2 more piles of dirt in the riverbed. When I went down to look at it, it was full of wooden stakes, clips of nails, 16 pennies, all kinds of rebar that would have just destroyed our tires.
Have you called the construction site?
It was just coming off a construction
Yeah.
site. It's
Did you
also
call
coming
the
from
task
downtown
force?
Los Angeles. I followed trucks from the 405 freeway where it crosses the 101, coming down Mulholland Drive, all the way in. And one truck driver, I started following him down Soledad Canyon. He pulled over, wanted me to pass. I stopped behind him. He pulled over again. I stopped behind him. The third time he pulled over, he got out and started cussing at me. I went in, I started taking pictures of him, the truck.
Is that what these are?
Yes, one of those is pictures. One of them is a roll-off company that they'll just rent roll-offs, and you can see it was full of broken concrete. They were going to dump that on another lady's property. A lady up, bootlegger in the very back, decided these guys offered her $50 a load because it's $700 at the dump. So she was taking $50 a load for them to just go dump all this crap on the back of her property. She's a renter.
Oh my, have you called?
So what happened was, long story short, the one day I came back and suddenly, because these guys were coming in at 5 in the morning, 4:30, sometimes right in the afternoon, we're at work, we're not catching them. So finally I came into Bootlegger, just across the railroad tracks, and I see 3 trucks coming out of Hudson, Hughes Road, or whatever that is there. So I took my little car in my big truck and I blocked the road. So they got out and started getting mouthy with me, and I told them, I've been divorced twice, there's nothing you can tell me that'll scare me. The one guy came over and like punched my car and said he was going to sue me and trap me into some sort of lawsuit. I said, that's fine. So then another truck pulled up, and I had already called Joe, and I told him to bring his gun down because these guys were getting pretty mouthy with me, and I'm there with my little car and like 8 guys out of these trucks. So Joe came down with his gun, then Jonathan Trevelyan came down with his son. And it was so funny because more trucks started pulling up. And so Jonathan backed his truck up, and they were thinking, oh, we're going to let him go past. And they would pull in to the trap, and then we trapped those guys in there. So pretty soon we had about 8 trucks there, and then one of them tried to get away, ripped Joe's bumper off, did hit and run. I'd already called Deputy Short, who then in turn that day called 2 other sheriffs to come out. He wasn't on duty. They came out, and in the meantime, the Highway Patrol also came out to do the traffic
Are the guys still trapped?
collision. Yeah, we trapped them all in there, and it was just a big rat trap.
I wasn't there.
So are they going to stop dumping in your area because of this, do you think? Or?
I think so. They slowed down a little bit there, and then I caught another truck and threw him out. But the thing is that they're also coming right down Soledad Canyon. Like the Public Works had spent millions of dollars after the fires and then the floods, dressing all the sides of the road from here all the way to Santa Clarita. And they had belly dumps. The KOA took in one of these guys saying, yeah, we'll take some dirt. And they had belly dumps, which if you don't know those, it's a truck and a trailer, and they dump from the bottom and they dump on the fly. So they can be emptied in 30 seconds. So they were coming in and dumping in the KOA. When the KOA couldn't take any more that evening, They were just pulling off on the side of the shoulder and leaving a row of dirt 2 foot high and 40 feet long, all the way down the sides of Soledad Canyon, of all this garbage dirt, just right over all the brand new dressed areas. So I got Public Works involved, I got code enforcement involved. They actually just came out, the top guy, and I can't remember the names, but 2 of them from code enforcement came out and hopped in my truck just last Wednesday, and I gave a tour all the way down. If you're also looking in.
Showing them all the dump spots near your
Showing all
area?
the dump spots,
Okay.
also the areas, the KOA came and actually cleaned up all the belly dump stuff, because they were threatened with a lawsuit for that stuff. But they're
Who
also,
threatened them?
me.
Oh, you mean, wait, KOA was threatened, or?
I called them and told them that this is their people dumping all over the roads, they can do the cleanup, and they're gonna be
Oh, okay.
sued for all the cleanup, and the next day they're out with their tractors and their little bobtail dump truck. But also, like, next to the Rio Grande grocery store, the Rio grocery
Right.
store, as soon as you pass there, if you look down in the riverbed, there's 15 or
Yeah,
20
I saw
truckloads
that.
of concrete and asphalt.
I saw that 2 days ago.
Up this way, maybe a quarter mile before the fire station, you know, where they've got the fire crews, that one crew there. Somebody went in and dumped almost 100 loads of asphalt and concrete in there, just kept backing it in, backing it in. Code enforcement wrote him up, and they told me there, they go, yeah, we told this guy that he's gotta clean it up. And that's one of the problems is that code enforcement can only cite the landowners, and they have nothing to do with this, most of them. So this guy now is having to spend 20 or 30,000 cleaning up. They started last weekend. I saw end dumps in their trucks, and they put a row of dirt across. So they took maybe 20 loads out, put a row of dirt across, and this week a large truck backed over it and dumped another load of concrete on this guy's property. Santa Clarita has even a bigger problem. If you're going south on Soledad Canyon and you just pass the tunnel and you look down into the riverbed, there's, I think it's called Herbs Road or Ebbs Road. There's a little road that will take you down to the riverbed. They've got almost 1,000 loads of dirt.
Yeah, I
It looks
saw
like a
that.
football field, almost 10 to 12 feet high. That person is leasing the property, and they were getting paid, having all these trucks come in, truck after truck after truck, and dump the dirt. So they've been written up now, but they're still letting trucks go in every now and then, and I called 2 more times. Code enforcement went out and cited them again. But code enforcement says our hands are tied, because all they can do is come out and cite this person and cite the owner. And that's it, and they leave, and they're not there for, you know, and then it's turned over to district attorney's backed up. 8 months later, they could have another 1,000 loads dumped there. And the other issue I see
Well,
is that.
we need patrols, we need,
Well, one of the other issues I see, and Scott, you can tell me, I don't know if you know what the fines are, but what is the fine for illegal dumping? It's a misdemeanor, right?
It's a misdemeanor, so
Is it
you're
$200,
looking at,
$400?
no, it's up to like, almost, well, it can be as high as 4,000.
but they also have to clean up the mess they dump, it's
They
not.
have to clean up the mess they dump, if you can find out who is responsible for the dumping.
I would remind you, as one who's imported soil on the job sites and exported soil from the job site, you have to certify that soil
It's clean.
before you export it.
All
You
right,
have to
it
say
does.
whether it's clean or not. If it's not clean, it goes to a landfill or a landfill. And if it is clean, then you can find a place to sell it, but you better sell it and you better have a record of it.
But no one's certifying
Yeah.
pool digs, no one's
And they're not
certifying
finding legal places to put it,
things,
so.
yeah. So
You go
there's-
out Antelope Woods, there's a whole bunch of new stuff dumped on the end of it.
Yeah,
It's
so,
terrible.
so I have been in contact with code enforcement. I do have a public works connection that I call when I see stuff on the road specifically, and they'll come out and clean it up. And they'll just say, okay, I'll get someone out there, because they know there's no investigation they can do to find these people. So the best thing we can do is put the word out there that you're only allowed to have 5 truckloads, and it needs to be certified fill if you want to take it to your property a year. That's what code enforcement told me, 50
And you
yards is maximum, that's it.
You need a grading permit if you import dirt, anything that's more than, what is it, cubic yard, right?
Well, this is what they're saying, it's 50 cubic yards is the maximum you can have before you require a permit.
Well,
And if
they
you-
told me 1 cubic yard you need a permit. If you're going to excavate or move or,
A cubic yard could be just.
it's a
digging
pickup
straight.
truck bed, yeah, it's
Well,
very
a
small.
pickup truck will hold, you know, if you exclude the weight, it'll hold about 1.5 to 2 yards.
Well, okay, I'm close enough, but it's like,
But yeah, I was told from code enforcement it's 50 yards or 3 foot of fill.
And if you dump in a watershed, then it becomes a state issue.
water quality control board, that's right. And it becomes an Army Air Corps,
Absolutely right.
Army
So
Corps.
I don't know, I was hoping,
30% of Acton is an SEA, so a lot of this dirt's going in SEA.
It's all going in the NCA.
yeah, so I was just hoping, I mean, it stopped once I got all the neighbors aware of what the laws were, what these people are trying to do, because they're saving $700 a load. So, you know, the more they get in, the more money they make every day. They'll give you $50 and everyone thinks they're making money, but I think everyone needs to be more aware that all the trucks coming up and down Soledad Canyon, maybe one of them out of 100 is here legally. So I've been stopping,
So it'd
I
be
don't care, I've been
worthwhile
pulling
to,
trucks
like-
over on the side of the road. If I see them on the dirt road, I stop every single truck and ask them, where are you going? Who you
How
dumping
do
the
you
dirt
stop a
for?
truck?
I have my little car, it's like a go-kart.
Yeah, I know.
My big truck is fine, the F-450 is great. When I got the little car, they still gotta stop or they run me over.
Or what do you like, just go really slow until you
I
make
just
it-
go really slow and just stop in the middle of Soledad Canyon. And I get out and I walk over to them. I'm fed up to here with all the illegal stuff that's been going on.
Well, and,
Yeah.
Okay,
Can we-
Chris is a big guy, you know, so.
yeah.
So-
Well, you know, I think it would be
Yeah,
good
one of
if
the
anybody-
one of the pictures in there, the two guys in the truck that got out and beat up my car, I got a few dents, I was like.
Yeah,
okay,
that
other
one
than
guy
that,
doesn't
we
look
don't
happy
care.
at all.
Can we write a letter? Can we write a letter to put in the journal that educates our residents about what's going on and that this dirt isn't always certified? It should be certified, it should be clean. If they're gonna have it on their property, and don't allow anybody to dump anything on your property that's not certified, make sure it's legit. You know, they should be aware of what's going on. I mean, I think that, you know, Chris has made his neighbors well-informed, but, I mean, the rest of the community, a lot of us are clueless, so we just don't know. I don't see these trucks, because I live in a little, you know, neighborhood that's all paved streets.
My personal idea, and code enforcement thought it'd be great too, was that, you know, a lot of big trucks come up Soledad Canyon from Canyon Country and they go to that mine and they're picking up gravel and doing stuff. But at the very next road, right at the end of the mine, is basically Agua Dulce Canyon Road, which takes them right back to the freeway.
Mhm.
There should be no reason for a truck over 10 tons or over 2 axles coming up Soledad Canyon past that part of the road to all the way up to Crown Valley unless they have a specific job site with an address and the thing. So I was thinking if you could talk Public Works into putting a weight limit on Soledad Canyon between Agua Dulce and Crown Valley Road, that would make a huge difference.
Except nobody's there to enforce it.
Well, the thing is that if a truck's driving up Soledad Canyon and it's full of dirt, and Scott's behind him, he can't pull him over unless he has a reason and stop them. So these trucks, if they see Scott behind them, they were gonna dump illegally, and they'll just drive up and make a U-turn on Crown Valley Road and come back down, and then come back around, and Scott doesn't have time to follow them around. But with a weight limit, any of us can say, hey, there's a truck with a weight limit on there, take a picture, and it's done.
Did you suggest that to Public Works?
I did, and they thought it was a great idea. They were gonna actually go back to their office and talk with their hires up and try to come up with some sort of a game plan, because they knew it was a problem, they knew it was a big problem, but they had no idea how big it was when they really saw everything that I showed them. It's literally, you know, every quarter mile from one end of Soledad Canyon to the other. We're being turned into a dump.
Is Caltrans have any jurisdiction over that part of the road, or would it
It's all
just be
public
county?
works.
Okay,
It's all county public works.
so we should write a letter to, or put that on the agenda for the next meeting. Or no, we can vote, no, we can't, it's not agendized, so we should, I think we should write a letter on this.
I didn't mean to monopolize your time, but I'm kind of personally involved with that.
No,
right now.
that's kind of been an ongoing issue. We've talked about it almost every meeting about these
I bring
trucks
it up
dumping.
almost every
Yeah.
meeting that it's come up, and I also did an article when, forgotten his name, the gentleman came from Public Works to speak at the Agua Dulce Town Council meeting, and he talked about the amount that you could import to dump and what constituted ability to, you know, import dirt without getting a permit and all that, and I published all that already. Obviously, it didn't do much good, so if you guys wanna write something else, I'll write something based on this, but if you guys wanna write a letter to the community or whatever, or if you.
Yeah, maybe if it appears in that, you know, section of the paper where, you know, it's a community letter rather than like a editorial or something, maybe it'll get seen by people who don't really go through and read everything. Some
Everybody
people,
reads the letters.
Yeah.
People are always looking.
because it's right in the front, so they usually get that far, then they get interrupted and they
No,
don't
I'm happy
finish.
to do anything that works.
Yeah.
Chris, what weight limit did you say?
You know, I think 10 tons for the truck itself. I mean, if people can have a trailer on the back hauling stuff, but I think a 10-ton unit would be more than sufficient.
Well, you know what, we can vote on it tonight under this Public Works and Utilities agenda item.
Isn't there a weight limit on the Sierra
Angeles?
Highway and?
Sierra, I don't know about. Angeles, there definitely is.
Because most of the time, you don't see any big truck, tractor, and double truck kinds of trucks on Sierra Highway. Occasionally, someone cheats, but I think there's a weight limit on there. And there should be one on Soledad too.
No,
No?
neither one.
But there's.
'Cause I've been passed by double rigs on Sierra going
It's-
really fast.
Well,
It's
yeah.
because they
Dangerous
serve
down by Red
Rory
Rover,
here.
dangerously fast.
Well, they're up at the 76 station all the time.
It's a truck
Probably
stop,
not-
so.
Well, that's-
That they're
that's
fuel-
not-
fueling
you don't-
there and-
You don't see that many, but,
Well, I
Lately,
see it
I've
'cause
seen
I'm
like
right there.
7 or 8, I mean, they can get
Park-
stacked up.
yeah.
For a long day, a day or two. I mean,
Yeah, I just think, you know, from Crown Valley north, there's very easy freeway access here, Santiago, and then right at the end. And from Agua Dulce south, you know, that'll service the mine. And I don't know of any commercial property between Agua Dulce and Crown Valley Road on Soledad Canyon that would require large trucking.
I thought there was not Cemex, but a company that pulls stuff out of the mine, out of the riverbed. Down, there's not Cemex, down
That's
there near.
Rasmussen,
Like, yeah.
Yeah, and that is actually south of Agua Dulce.
yeah.
Okay.
Where it ties into
You mean
Soledad.
west of Agua Dulce?
It's
or-
in
Or
Santa
going-
Clarita.
going
Twelve
up.
thousand and one Soledad Canyon.
Okay,
So I mean, between those, it's just
and Tippy
campgrounds.
doesn't need big trucks coming in,
No.
and the campgrounds don't either?
If we can table this issue right now, we'll pick it up again in the agenda item. Do we have more comments?
One more,
Okay.
one more. Hi, I just want to also thank the entire Acton Town Council for their unselfish time and work that they put into making our town better. Thank you guys all. Thank you. Thank you. I'll make this real quick. I'm here to complain about the illegal sign that's on Escondido Canyon and Puritan Mine Road.
Yep.
Yep, I already submitted pictures of it.
Good.
It's about 10 feet by 8 feet, it's all put together by 2 by 4s. It looks like,
It's a
it
billboard.
looks terrible. Okay, I'm gonna clean up my act here. It is terrible. It's advertising a realtor. I don't know who this guy is, but that sign should not be there. It is awful. So I'm here to.
We all
complain
agree
about
with you 100%.
that. Okay, would
And
it do
however-
any good if I called Dan Garinger?
That's what you need to do.
I think
Okay,
so.
I will call him, I know him
And not just
personally.
you, we're gonna do it too.
Yeah,
Then-
we'll do it.
And I'm gonna get in touch with Caltrans as well, because
Okay.
it's facing, there's a second sign that's identical, that's
All right.
facing the freeway, and it's there only for freeway travel.
Okay.
Yeah, it is.
All right.
So-
Well, and also, under ironically, the Make America Beautiful Act of the 60s, the Billboard Act, Caltrans has jurisdiction over all billboards within, I believe it's 500 feet of their right-of-way. But they all have to be permitted through Caltrans, so.
It's not.
Well, I'm sure of that, so. No doubt.
Okay,
This one will be
I'll
fun.
call Dan tomorrow.
You enjoy. Happy hunting.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
All right, thank you guys,
Thank
thank
you
you
so
very
much.
much.
We have another community
That's
comment?
it.
I'm Kathleen Trinity, I live on Fairlane. One of my neighbors about 3 doors down and a little bit around the bend wants to let AT&T Wireless put up a 60-foot tall tower that is a faux conifer. Now, what I'd like to know is there a density limit on these things? And by the way, that would be only for a certain category of AT&T wireless users. It wouldn't even cover all of them because it requires an antenna and a router in their house. There is one simply a mile away that's accessible to anybody down
Kathleen,
on
are you gonna-
Sierra.
Are you planning on hanging out tonight or gonna leave early?
Well, I have a test tomorrow, so I was going to.
Because it is an agenda item, and we're gonna
Oh,
cover
it
this
is.
very
Oh, I'm so
thoroughly.
sorry.
And the gentleman's if you can't stay for that, isn't he coming to the next meeting?
No.
Oh, I misunderstood that.
You know, I just wanted to know what the time limit was on getting a response to you.
We've never even
Well, I've
seen
got
it.
the response,
Oh.
and we're taking responses. The people from, let's see, AT&T, we can't fit them in until the second meeting in November, because the first meeting in November
Right.
is your CPAC, and this coming meeting is, 2 weeks from now, is gonna be trash,
Okay.
because everybody's up. in
Well,
arms
except for,
about
I think what I'm confused by is that my understanding what AT&T wanted to talk to us about, the one they mapped out before, is not the one she's talking about. We've not heard of this one.
This is a specialized thing, and I have
We've
a
not-
letter
we
from
know
them, I can
nothing
send
about
it
this
to
is
you.
the
one from the letters from the
Yeah,
last
there
time,
there
so I
are
got
four.
All
there are
four
four-
towers.
The 4 towers that they talked about when
They sent the letters out to all the people that are within 1,000
Yes.
feet from the tower.
And what's so strange about this is I remember a meeting last year where they came and it sounded like they didn't want to put them up on the slopes. This is up on the slope. And 60 feet high is going to prevent me from seeing my southern sky at night. And I would need to know if they have lights on these things at night. They're also going to have a generator there. Is that a fire hazard? And they're going to have some sort of fenced shed area for storage and of equipment. So it sounds like a pretty
Did you use
sizable
all that in
thing.
your letter to
Yes, you
the
did.
town council? All those
I did say
reserves?
some of it, but I didn't,
Okay.
I just wanted to know what the dimensions of it will be. I'm going to go see the owner probably tomorrow afternoon. And I will talk to my neighbors, but it seems to me if there's a more accessible tower down on Sierra and Red Rover, why do we need another one? It sounds like it's just for a certain, very small category of users.
I'm also confused because the guy spent a long time talking about the one near Dusty Trail or Lillian's place. And we never, he said all the other places hadn't been nailed down yet, they were just draft. I mean,
That's what they sent.
I'm a little bit bothered by this because I had no idea there was one up in that area. Even the maps they showed us, the addresses were wrong. Yeah, this is not the same thing as what
Mine
the
is
other.
the same, Braylock was already on that list.
Okay,
But
but
Red
that's
Rover
not
wasn't.
Kathleen, so.
No, but I got the same letter.
Oh, you did? Does it say,
But I,
No,
it
there are
just,
4 different letters, there are 4 towers that they're installing, there are 4 different letters.
Different.
Each of the heights and everything are different.
yeah, but what he presented before was they focused just on that one near Dusty Trail or whatever it is.
They were all in the north.
Boiling Point, yeah. We never, he never, in fact, he said, we don't know where the other ones are gonna go, we're just thinking about it, but this is the one where, that's
Had
my
proposed-
recollection.
He had proposed areas, they were all north of the freeway. They were all in the North Crown Valley area.
Yeah, but they were not nailed down
No,
the
they
way
were
the break.
proposed,
Yeah.
but they weren't like okayed by.
I thought he had general areas, he wouldn't let us take those diagrams home,
Okay,
remember that? Anyway,
do
okay.
you want to move to that?
All right, yeah,
Do you want to move to that?
I'll make a copy of this and get it to you.
okay.
Thank you.
Somebody else gonna have to do that too. It's like, my plate's full.
Okay, we're going to skip
To 16?
over to, no. 16.
Okay.
16. There's a handout for each.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's what my
Okay.
letter is.
John Pappas from a company called Yukon Group that's working with AT&T has specified initially 6 sites, and he gave a memo talking about 6 sites, and ultimately he resolved that there were 4 sites in the presentation, and he wants to send out a mailing to all people within 1,000 feet of the various towers. I told him that one of the components of the mailer said that in some areas AT&T plans to concurrently initiate 4G LTE voice and data service, but it doesn't indicate if Acton is one of the areas or not. And I told him if we ask for input from the community, it seems critical to me that you provide them with adequate information on which to form an opinion and to provide comments. And his response was he's checking with AT&T and will get back to us. I told him at our meeting in March, it was the intent of the Acton Town Council to convey to his team that it's important to make sure that the residents around the proposed towers are happy with this. Somehow this has been turned around into a plan for the Acton Town Council to be the recipient of community comments. As spokespeople for our community, we're quite willing to collect the comments. However, we need assurance that there will be a receptive ear for those comments and a willingness to amend plans accordingly. And so that's the last communication I had with him. His response to that was, I don't want there to be any suspicion that we would filter or omit community responses if they were sent to us. In addition, we recently had an instance where we had a mailing response sent to us and we ended up getting death threats.
Oh, jeez.
We'd like to avoid a repeat of that somewhat unpleasant experience. I hope you understand. I can assure you that we're willing to work with the Acton Town Council and Acton community in coming up with designs that are acceptable to all concerned, including the LA County Planning Department and the owners of the 4 properties our sites would go on. For example, if we propose a faux pine tree in the community, or ATC wants a faux eucalyptus tree, we'll change the design to the faux eucalyptus tree. There are times that complete agreement cannot be reached, but we certainly try. So anyway, that's where we stand. We've got in the package that I've given each of you, I've got the boilerplate letter that they sent out with the timing for sometime next year.
So have they
I've got a copy
submitted,
of the map.
have they submitted applications to the regional planning?
I don't think so.
Well, if they're planning on installing next year, they've already got to have the applications in process.
Could be.
So it seems to me that the 2 issues are the visual, night sky, generator noise, what have you impacts versus the benefits to Acton residents with respect to enhanced wireless access. And for the community to speak cogently on those 2 issues, because they have to be balanced, they have to understand them. So has there been any, have they, my recollection is that the information that he provided, he picked the packets up, he didn't give us the maps, as I recall. Or maybe I'm mixing up
I
with
think
Edison.
that was the security at the
Edison?
substation.
Okay, maybe that was it. So,
He
But-
gave us maps the first time they came, I don't think the second time they came.
no, because they would, yeah, I remember I didn't walk away with
They
something.
collected.
But also, an idea of how much, what the impact of residents benefits will accrue to them, if any.
Well, I recall that night, he was talking about how everybody would at the very least, double their internet service. But in the
If they had
main letter-
AT&T, if they
If they
had
have
AT&T.
AT&T, but in this letter right here, for many of these, in these communities, they will jump from dial-up connections to 10 megabits per second, whatever that 10 megabits per second is, I'm not quite sure. But I don't know anybody who has dial-up. So, are you gonna double your dial-up? Well, I already doubled my dial-up. I wanna double what I already have right now.
There are still some people, I was using
In the Shannon
dial-up
Valley, I think
until,
there's still people with dial-up.
I was using it in my valley because there was no connections until I finally decided. But this year, actually, earlier this year, I went to a satellite. So now AT&T wants to put in these, in fact, one near my house. And the whole point of it is to sign up everybody
Yeah.
And that was,
to get AT&T phone service, voice, and internet, and whatever else they can sell you by
But-
bundling.
that was to my point, these towers, if you're going to put them in, you need to make them, other companies be allowed to rent space on them. And I was very insistent on that.
Yeah,
He said,
sure.
well, I don't know if that's how it's gonna be. Because I'm not particularly interested in providing AT&T and just AT&T marketing opportunities if it affects the community. And I've said that to him every time he's come, and he never gives an answer. And it bothers me quite a bit, actually.
What if there already is an existing tower? I mean, isn't there any limitation?
Well, in some cases there aren't though. maybe where you are.
Where I am, it's 1 mile away.
Yeah, so you have good internet access from that tower, wireless access?
But my
The
family,
other places don't.
There is
Oh, yeah.
And that's why every time he's come, he's talked about the one near your area, and I've tried to get extra information on the other. Oh, well, those are just draft ideas, oh, those are possible places we're gonna put them. I had not, maybe it's me misunderstanding, which is certainly possible, but I had not understood that they had actually nailed down physical addresses and reached out to property owners to make arrangements.
Well, I do know Braylock's been on that list every time he's come, so.
Yeah,
I
okay.
do know that because it's around the corner from my house.
Okay.
the address of the one that they talked about, the boiling point, was erroneously placed on the maps. It showed up in Acton.
In the middle of, yeah, that's true.
Valley, even though the address was a 68-something number on Sierra Highway, which is boiling point.
So
6801.
maybe what we should do is two things. Maybe we should, because we haven't heard from anybody in the community at all,
Yes.
other
Well,
than,
no, we've got three responses.
okay, other than, you know, Kathleen and what might have come in,
There's a map in there.
but that's not a lot.
Yeah, we've gotten 3.
There'll
That's
be
just
more,
water.
there'll be more.
I think the
Yeah,
letter was
this
just
came in on
received on
Saturday.
Saturday.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, but I mean, what I'm trying to say is we haven't gotten any, we've had them here twice now, nobody from the community has commented.
Right.
That's what I'm talking
But
about.
these letters just went to all those homeowners. They got
Okay.
them on Saturday.
Okay, so I think it's, I don't know, I think it's fair to solicit input and also try to get from AT&T whether or not they're going to allow other services like, I don't know, whoever,
Can I
T-Mobile.
make two
whoever.
comments?
They did,
I thought these cell towers were strictly for wireless phones, you know, or
No, it's for,
No,
so
this
just
is,
for the landlines, no matter what they say these towers will do, like in my area, because I've contacted AT&T and talked to them about how do I get, you know, high-speed internet. And they said, well, all of your wiring needs to be updated. So even if they update the tower, it won't work for any houses unless the wiring is updated. My wiring is still 1965, two-strand.
wait,
That's
so
they
what
want
you're
to do
saying is
at your
that
expense.
they could put all these towers up, but
Right.
Acton residents won't be able to use their service unless they spend, I don't know, X grand
Well, it's-
upgrading all of their wires?
Well, it's not about the wires in the house, it's about the wires to their house. So they put the tower up,
I
let's
thought
say.
it was wireless.
no, but
though.
this is all wireless. What they're talking about is
Yeah, we're talking
fixed
about,
wireless internet from their
you're talking about
tower.
okay, so what they're talking about then is not the dial-up speed, what they're talking about, and it's not satellite, they're talking about, it's a broadcast over a
Line
of
an
sight.
antenna, so it's line of
Yeah.
sight antennas, okay.
They want
Yeah.
to.
That's what we, you know what?
The dial.
That's what we under, the first time they came, it was just cell phone. Then, oh, well, now we can add all this other stuff. And so it's been a little bit of a moving target, but our understanding is that if they put these towers in, anybody who has a line of sight to it can buy their service and get their
And
internet.
actually, we have all that service, because I had that type of service when I had a commercial building in Bakersfield, and it was more expensive than satellite. It was $150 a month.
Well, and that makes sense if it's a captured audience, but if they have to, what I was trying to push them at was, okay, so you're gonna put this impactful thing in our community, make it so that other people can put their receivers on and not just you. I don't know what the right words
well,
are.
they
Right.
did,
This was
they
the
did
state.
say that somebody could like lease space on the
This is
tower.
a
They didn't
state-funded
say that.
program. This is a state-funded program, yes.
No, they didn't make any commitments.
No,
So-
they say we've done that
We've
before.
done that before, but they don't have anybody lined
They
up.
set the
They-
price for the minimum.
They
at
didn't say
$60.
that they would allow this on
You
this.
know, if I could
science.
make one more comment about this, the genesis of this issue, it's the federal government coming in and saying, okay, there are communities that are not adequately served by the internet, and the internet is almost necessary for everyday life, and so we're going to subsidize various companies to provide internet services where they don't presently exist. And that's what this program is all about. So
Okay.
I don't know that we are an internet-deprived community or not, but they think we are, and they want us to take 4 towers. Now, 3 of the towers are new towers, 1 is an existing tower.
And just the only other suggestion I was gonna make is, you know, obviously, and for me, if if I was sitting up there, I don't know that much about all of this technology and stuff, but everything we're learning is only from AT&T and their side. We're asking questions. Why don't we call one of their competitors and say, hey, this is what's going on in our town, and why aren't you here, and what do you think about this, and let them come in. I think you'd get an honest opinion from one of their competitors.
And
Spectrum has never said an honest word.
Verizon.
But if it's against their competitor, they may say, well,
Verizon's a
you know.
different ballgame.
Yeah.
And it could be that in certain areas, like near Boiling Point, where they really are, I understand, internet deprived, you know, that area wants this tower just to facilitate that, and we'd support that, but not necessarily in other areas where, you know what I mean? I mean, I could see a bifurcated sort of position, depending on what people say. Yes,
You
we
know, I'd
want-
like to see find out the number of letters that they've sent out.
Actually went out.
If we get 3 complaints and they sent out 10,000 letters, that means that the people
No, they're only gonna
receiving
send
the
out
letters-
1,000 feet from
Yeah.
the tower.
Yeah.
So in other words, I'm down the street and around the corner, I'm the last
Oh,
house
so
that you
maybe
can
you're
go
saying-
to. So it can only go to one more house, maybe 2, 3, 4, and then maybe 4 later on.
Not if
So we,
you go-
but we need
No,
to
you're
ask how
talking,
many
it's
letters
not
were
very
sent out.
large.
And are the complaints, the 3 letters of feedback we've got, are they all on the same tower or on different towers?
All different, 2 different, I didn't see the third one.
So I wonder if anyone had the problem with Boiling Point, because it sounds like people want stuff out there.
I'm sorry?
It-
Well, where she lives at.
I was wondering if the letters of concern that have come in, if they're all addressing one tower location or all, you know, one complaint per tower, so.
Oh, well,
Right now.
when they first proposed this a long time ago, there was a big hullabaloo, which is why nothing got done for a long time.
Well, nobody sent us anything, did they?
Well, this was several years ago when they first proposed a tower at Boiling Point. And the problem was that property owner was willing to let them have it, but a next door neighbor, such as it is next door, where they wanted to place the tower, it really was right on top of her property and right near her buildings. And she started quite a hullabaloo about it.
And it was just cell phone, it
She
was not
came
That
internet.
was cell phone at the time.
Yeah.
She came here and talked.
That's quite possible. I'd have to go back and look at my
Yeah.
records. I have it, you know, in the archive.
But now it's internet, so it's a little bit different.
Well, see,
Potentially.
now it's an internet combined with voice.
Right.
And when I asked the gentleman who was here specifically, are they giving up on landlines? All he would say, but it was very revealing, he said, that seems to be the way people are going. In other words,
Okay.
they're getting less and less interest in landlines, and therefore they're going to phase them out, was the direct, impression I got. So, that means like people in my area that might be on landlines would probably be forced to move to an AT&T system of, which is, where AT&T.
Well, I don't think they're ever gonna drop the landlines, I mean, at least.
Oh, don't be
Well,
so sure.
Not
I
in
think
my
they
lifetime
will.
anyway, but.
It might be sooner than you think, because unfortunately, they're not maintaining the landlines as well as they should. I've had problems with wires at the poles and wires at the Sierra Highway where the big box is, and the input I get from the repair people who come out to service my account
Right.
is that these things are out of date, they're not being maintained.
Well, they
the
certainly charge for
splicing.
them as if they're being maintained.
Of course they do, they don't want you to know it, it's just that I happen to be very friendly with the people who come to repair it, they'll tell me things. So, I don't think AT&T is really caring about putting in new lines, putting in extra lines to serve people. They want those to go away and be replaced by what they're proposing now.
Well, then let me suggest, it seems to me that we need 3 things. How many letters they've sent out?
Yeah, number
What, literally the service area, a radius map around each tower, so that people can make informed comments on balancing benefits to impacts. And,
Well, it sounds like it's within 1,000 feet, right?
no, I'm not talking about the,
How
okay, so
far
how many
it would
legs?
serve.
Yeah, if it's
Yeah.
line of sight, people could 5 miles away potentially get benefit.
Right.
And so the third thing is whether or not they're willing to share the towers. I like Chris's idea of calling perhaps Verizon, because I would see Verizon as being a competitor to theirs, and see if they'll.
But is Verizon a competitor relative to internet?
I don't know.
Because I think all they have
I do
is
satellite, so I have no idea.
cell phones.
No, they have internet.
Oh, I think I have
You have Verizon internet? Okay, so Verizon would be.
Is it tied, is it through a line? Is it wired or?
It's a Wi-Fi.
Yes, with Verizon. So I think it's fair, because people might want the tower if they have better service. They might, but if they're gonna have to deal with the tower and it's not gonna help them anywhere, they might oppose it.
The issue I had with line of sight was that it wasn't just, from your house to there, it was trees, the chimney, a
Right.
building, anything even half obstructing it created a problem for that. And so satellite's always been a better use.
Exactly, and that's why if they gave us a map because they should know if this thing's gonna be 60 feet tall.
No, there's 60,
Mine's
75, and 100, I think.
Well, okay, so, all right, so for each one is what I'm saying, they need to give us, with cutouts where the service isn't there. I think that's a fair thing to ask for, so that you can make a balanced decision.
Go back once again, Jackie, and articulate
so
the part about the competition in Verizon.
Okay, will they allow space on their tower for competitors to put repeaters or whatever I don't know what the engineering term is.
The thing is, if they do, even if they do, first of all, it's a canard when the federal government or somebody says you have to do this, then they use it to make a profit. And then if you say, okay, guys, you're going to allow competitors to do it, then they're also going to make an additional profit. That's the business model. They know that they basically know how you're going to react. We tend to be, in our community, a little bit reactionary toward change. We don't like it, right?
That's why we're
Pretty conservative that way. So these guys know that, and so they know we're going to object. They know you're going to object, and so you're going to bring up the objection. Okay, we want you to be competitive. We think this is a free enterprise system, and you're going to allow other people on your towers, and they'll say, "Oh man, I don't know if we can do that." And they know damn good and well that you're going to ask that question. They've already got a business plan on how much they're going to charge people to do it, and do nothing to make money off of it.
Sure. But I think right now their business model requires that they get as much money from the federal government as possible.
Correct.
So they don't want anybody else involved.
So they'll take that money and the money they can get over
Right.
in Verizon and other.
And honestly, it isn't any different from what, for example, the Public Utilities Commission does. When they approve a transmission line, Edison always gets a little carve out in the end saying, well, if nobody ever uses this line, we still want to, they call it CWIP, a cost of lost infrastructure. I can't remember what it stands for. But anyway, they always get paid no matter what, no matter if anybody uses it or not. So it's just whether you get front loaded at the front with federal money or back loaded, ratepayers paid over the next 30 years. And it's just, that's how it's done. I mean, all utility infrastructure is that way, so.
Well, I believe this was a grant that they got to do this. So there's gonna be some stipulations on that grant to begin with, for sure.
So that might be, let's ask
You
them
know
what
that.
those are.
And then he
They
said.
should be able to tell us what they
We
are.
asked him the question about whether the phone service would go on it. And he
Right.
said, well, to begin with, no, because the grant is only for doing internet.
Yeah, they keep coming at us every way they can to get this through.
Yeah.
And I have no problem with it if people are supportive of it.
Yeah.
But if they're not supportive of it, then, so, I don't know, maybe, so it's 5 things. So the service, map service area that it will provide, how many letters they sent out,
Sharing the towers.
Sharing the towers.
will they share the towers, and what are the stipulations or conditions on their grant?
Grant stipulations.
Okay, can I hear a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that somebody contact them with that list of parameters and all that. Just investigate. I am not writing this letter, by the way, somebody else has to.
So,
I
who's
second.
the somebody?
I am.
You- Oh, okay.
I second.
I don't know, my hands
I
are
didn't want to.
firmly ensconced.
Okay, so, motion passed. Oh, wait, we didn't vote.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you for this detailed summary of us,
You're
of our
welcome.
conversations. That was really well done.
Okay, we're jumping around tonight.
Yeah.
Hard to get exercise, right? Let's see, we just did AT&T Towers, and we've got,
And they will be here, Kathleen.
Oh, yes.
You said the second week of November? No, the first.
No, he said second week.
Okay, second week of November. Pappas or AT&T will be here?
it hasn't been arranged, I
Oh,
can arrange that.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
That's what he
Get
said.
so that's what
AT&T
we
here.
suggested would.
Would that be,
I'll check with you.
and tell your
Second.
neighbors
Yes, I
Meeting.
that we're,
definitely will.
well, we're going to try, so keep
Okay.
posted, we'll let you,
Okay,
we'll
thank you
put it out in the
very much.
papers.
It's like each meeting coming up is going to be a community free-for-all, so
Yeah, the next.
we're gonna have a humdinger of a time.
next
okay.
Meetings.
Okay, can we just do minutes of the last meeting later and treasurer's report later?
Sure.
Have the sheriff's
Yeah.
report now?
Yeah,
Yep.
that's a good idea.
That's me.
Oh, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
All right, well, I'm sure everybody's heard about the Las Vegas incident. Just so you know, a sergeant from Santa Clarita is one of the sergeants, one of the deputies who is in surgery. There's another local deputy who's minor injuries out of surgery. A sergeant on our department, his son was shot and killed there. And we were ready to deploy a team, but they canceled us because the gentleman decided he would take his own life and end it, so. But we're still searching it out and seeing what's there. Oh, and then the Acton car tonight got a call to go to the hospital and take a report from a woman, I don't have her name, but apparently she was shot in the hand, treated and released in Vegas and came here, so we're taking a report for her here. So it does affect everybody locally, so if we get, keep them all in your thoughts and prayers, I would appreciate it. And the other thing, tomorrow, I have to go to court for a preliminary hearing for the gentleman that they arrested for burglarizing our liquor stores and
Ah.
places. So, I'll be tomorrow, bright and early, so I'll be at that. And then, not that I don't want to bring gifts, but I thought you might be interested in this because I got a copy. This is the amendment to Title 22 as approved by the Board of Supervisors for the cannabis ban ordinance. And it shows you the setbacks on properties and it's,
Is this on personal?
huh?
Is this personal?
No,
Title
that's your
22.
copy. I mean,
Okay, I need to.
that
read
was,
it. Did I
that's the
even know
letter
about
from
this?
regional planning that kicks it off, but the amendments to Title 22 was approved wholly by the Board of Supervisors, which is attached to it.
Okay,
So it's,
yeah, but I don't even know if I can.
yeah, it's, if you're tired, you can read it
Thank you.
later, but yeah.
Thank you, I think.
It's, I've only
And
read
I'm
part of
sorry.
it, but it basically bans the sale of cannabis other than private, and it has setbacks if it's on your own property.
Oh, yeah, they
It was-
had to extend, okay, yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes,
so
yes,
that's
all right,
what
I'm
that
on,
is.
I'm on board, okay,
All right,
and it's pot.
yeah, all right. So last month, we had 21 incidents that resulted in reports. We had one attempt burglary, one burglary by day, two unknown that were non-residential, one fraud by false pretenses, two 5150 committals, one grand theft motorcycle. I'm sorry, it was two grand thefts, I take that back. one indecent exposure, who was all over the Acton site. He's been arrested, so
Yes,
we have him in custody.
good.
One misdemeanor vandalism, one lost property, one non-criminal fire report, one theft from an unlocked vehicle, one curfew violation, and let's see, 3 impounded vehicles, and let's see, one non-criminal elder abuse, one forgery of checks, one suspicious circumstance, one miscellaneous misdemeanor, one abandoned vehicle, and one identity theft, and then one search report, which was the search that we spent several days on looking for the gentleman who was missing out of Lancaster, who formerly lived in Acton, and who we found his car out here.
Did you find him?
No, we
Still
did not
haven't
find
found
him, but long story short, the plot thickens because a gangster was arrested by LAPD in the Foothill area who had one of the gentleman's guns with him.
Oh, no.
So, but the rumor was he may have sold his guns before he came out this way.
Yeah.
So we don't know because we don't have him. So homicide, I basically found that case, got a hold of homicide, and they're talking with the gentleman who found the gun, who was a 2-striker parolee, who was trying to hide the gun underneath his seat when he was being pulled over by LAPD. So I had them send me that report. That all went to homicide, and we're still looking at it. So until we get anything conclusion, he's still a missing person. And the other thing is, gangsters would not come out here and abandon a car in areas they don't know like this. So he knows, the guy knew the area, so what he was doing up there, we don't know, but we're still looking.
Unfortunately, though, there are a lot of hundreds of new piles of dirt he could be under.
Exactly. Well,
No,
yeah.
I'm serious.
Yeah.
So, but we haven't given up. So, anybody have any questions?
Who do we call to turn in a barking dog that barks between 12 at night and 2 o'clock in the morning? Do we call you or Animal Rec?
Well, you can call deputies who will try to knock on the door, but it gets referred to animal control
Okay.
because they will actually issue a notice to control your barking dog, and if they hear other complaints, then they follow up with that.
Okay.
Actually, they changed Reg 10, and there's more stringent noise control
Good.
now imposed as of just a few months ago. So I don't remember the procedure, but if you look under Reg 10, you can pull it up if you have internet.
I don't even have a computer.
I tell you what, I
technically challenged.
I will try to, wait, did you published it, right, Lillian, the new Title 10, the animal control?
I've been waiting for a final on that.
Oh, I thought it went to the board. Okay.
No, wait a minute. The last word we got was that when Bruce Durbin was with us at the ATC, he was saying that they have not successfully merged 10 and 22 yet, so.
No, but they did do, remember when the gal was here, the head of animal control was here, and she made a statement, and we're saying, no, that's incorrect, and she looked it up, and she goes, no, we will fix this. I thought that went to the board.
Well, I'll have to go check that. She
Okay.
said that certain regulations were made more stringent, but I don't remember her being specific, but I'll go.
Oh, well, she made that commitment here, that was a big deal, remember, that was huge. Because this room was full. But I don't know, well, if it hasn't changed yet, it will change soon. So call animal control, there's a number to call.
Okay.
And every time, and hold the phone up, so, no, I'm not
Will they
kidding.
answer at 2 o'clock in the morning?
Well, if it's a message, leave a message.
Okay.
But
all
make,
right.
hold the phone up so they can hear the.
Yeah, listen to this.
And it is now 2 a.m.
Okay.
No, I'm actually not kidding about holding the phone up.
Me either.
They were a little slow some days. Anyway, you had a question, ma'am?
2 things. Is it true that Ace Hardware got hit yesterday?
Is it
What?
true?
Oh,
Ace
yeah.
Hardware,
Ace Hardware.
Have not seen any calls on it.
Saturday night.
Yeah.
Was robbed?
Broken into Saturday night.
My husband heard this.
Okay, well, there's no report that's been filed because it doesn't come up, because I looked specifically for it.
I was just
came
there
up
today
here.
talking to the owner about it, so saw the broken window with the wood on it.
Could you ask him to please make a report?
No, we didn't talk about that.
No, I mean, if you talk to him again, could you ask him to make sure that the report is
Yeah, and I
filed?
might be back tomorrow.
I appreciate
Yeah.
that, because we need to,
Okay.
I have his phone number if you want.
Apparently they stole ammo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
they stole
They went
ammunition.
for the gun.
They tried to get the guns that were locked in the safe, but they didn't get them.
Interesting. 'cause
Oh, so
there's
they didn't just break a window, they entered.
And that was,
The window went in, it's all on surveillance camera.
that was Saturday?
I'm sure, I figured there's a report, I have no idea.
Well, could you, if you cruise around, could you drop by there?
There's an alarm
That
and
would be great,
everything.
because they have it on video, apparently.
I know. That's,
Yeah, they were
that's
wearing
a
hoodies.
good video, so.
They said they couldn't see the faces.
Well, but they don't have the expertise of the sheriff's department. See it off reflections, you know, like that.
There we go. Okay, and the second question.
Second question. Have you got any suggestions, other than, I will call, is it Officer Acton? The last number of evenings, there has been some, I see it only, like I see the huge dust that goes up. Somebody's driving like an ATV of some kind up Acton Canyon Road at about 60, 70, 80 miles an hour. And then makes a loop around, what is it, does
Sand Creek?
Sand Creek?
Okay.
And then comes back around, and dust up, I don't know, they're going so fast, it's ridiculous. But,
Do
yeah, I
they
don't know what
just
they
do
look
this,
like.
or just do it once?
I think, man, I need to stay out there and follow them, maybe I'll go 60 miles an hour and figure out where the hell they're going. But, when you don't, I wouldn't even know what to report. This guy went really fast. But-
Well, you can report it as the noise from, somebody who's riding an off-road vehicle and creating a big cloud of dust up and down the road.
I know, but that's not gonna catch anybody.
Now, the problem is, it's finding where he's from. If he's only doing one loop, it's gonna be really hard to find him unless
Yeah.
someone follows him and goes, oh, he came from that house.
I think he's on Sachet. That's what I think he might
And
be.
does he
Yeah.
do this, or just go once?
Goes around the block.
Around and around and around,
Flying
but-
up, then goes around the block, ends up over, like I think on Sachet.
Oh, so he doesn't go around and around and around and around? Oh.
Yeah, so that's gonna be hard,
Looks
yes.
like he's coming home, but he's coming home really fast.
Super fast.
You need Chris there to park his car.
Well,
On
those,
that dirt road.
those
Mark
eight,
Allgood from Ace Hardware just text back that yes, he did file a police report.
you did, okay, because it's not coming up on my system, so I'll
Cool.
have to talk to Mark,
Okay,
see what he
Talking about
says.
Ace Hardware?
yeah, Mark
Yeah,
Allgood's
that
the
makes
other.
sense.
Okay, yeah, there's nothing on the box today, so. But ATVs cannot, those don't really, on dirt roads, you can't go that fast.
Oh, it's scary.
Okay.
I know it on my horses a lot of times.
And I hate to tell you
That's
what the
the
speed
scary
limit
part.
is on that road, so,
Yeah. Acton County.
yeah. It's 55.
Are you
Yes.
serious?
Wow.
Speed limits on dirt roads and unincorporated areas, the basic speed law. I didn't want to make that too public, but
It's 55?
it's the basic speed law. It's also whatever is safe. If they're
Yeah.
skidding and doing that, then they can get reckless, but we can't do a speed trap on an unincorporated dirt road. You can't do a radar on it because it's not been surveyed, but
So there's really nothing to report?
Well, no, because ATVs and off-road
they're
vehicles
not,
are different.
yeah, they're off-road vehicles, yeah, one, they're not legal.
They-
No, because I can't see it. All I do is see, it's one house away from me, where, Acton Canyon goes up, and so all I see is this huge cloud, and it's very, talk about noise, it probably.
And that's not an easy road to ride, even at 10 miles an hour.
Yeah,
Pretty
that's
bumpy
right.
road, I've been up it many
Yeah.
times, so whoever he is, I'd love to catch him and see who it is, but
Well, actually, there are other neighbors on the other side that are saying that, it may not be even the same person, but somebody at like 2 and 3 in the morning is going out and doing joy rides on their ATV.
yeah, if we can get an address, I'll be happy to go out and talk to him, or send the off-road team after him,
Maybe I'll be out there for them.
so.
And Mark just texted again, he said they only got $40 worth of ammo.
Oh, okay.
The break and everything else was locked.
Still,
They couldn't
just-
get
It's still a burglary, it's still a felony,
I
but that's good.
Can I send you about another rundown of that list?
Yes,
Or-
no problem. All to check again on that, see if I can find something, so. All right, otherwise, happy evening.
Thank you, Deputy Short. Okay, moving on with the agenda, I'm going to jump again and ask Chris Croisdale to speak. Chris is the liaison between the Acton Town Council and motion picture industry.
I'll stand over here so he has to look behind them. So I hadn't been in about a month and a half because I hadn't received any film permits. I was almost thinking that they took me off their list because all I give them is grief, which they deserve.
You write a mean email.
Yeah, so I was just gonna read the email real quick so everyone kind of gets on the same page with what we've been seeing here. So no permits for about 6 weeks, although they did have one that was at the Middleton Ranch, which if everyone knows what that is, it's the one that looks like a gas station. They've got a full restaurant built on there and all this stuff built on Soledad Canyon. And I turned the corner at 10 o'clock last week, and they actually had the lights on, shining in everyone's eyes directly on Soledad Canyon, and I couldn't see the road whatsoever. So I immediately pulled in, asked them for their permit. They kind of refused to give it to me at first, and then I argued with them a little bit. Told them that we could just get them shut down if they'd like, because their lighting is leaving the property, and then they went ahead and adjusted the lights immediately. But I don't feel that we should have to be the control of everything going on, because what happens is Film LA was hired by the Los Angeles County and City of Los Angeles to issue the permits because it was too hard for people to go in and pull their own permit. So Film LA is a non-for-profit that is now representing the county. They get paid directly by having these permits done. So if
They're
they don't,
supposed to do it.
what's that?
They're supposed to.
They should be doing it. But what it is that it's kind of, having the fox watch the chicken coop, because you go in to pull a permit. If they don't issue the permit, they don't get paid. So they want to do everything possible to make it easy for these people. And all they constantly do is try to put out the fires when we say there is one, but they don't do anything proactive. They're only reactive and very slow at that. So when we got this email with the latest permit that came in, the big issue I've had over the years is that when they close a road for everyone else, if we wanted to have a parade or anything, we need to put up signs a week in advance if this road's going to be closed, so everyone knows, especially early commuter traffic in the morning. They issue permits with 2 days notice, sometimes 24 hours notice, and never put up any signs. So in the morning when they want to close Soledad Canyon, we have 1,000 commuters coming from the Antelope Valley, and they don't know it's closed. And now instead of taking a detour, they're taking their detour down in front where the school buses go, in front of 1,000 trails. When they come back up to Soledad Canyon, there's a stop sign there. So they stop, go. They're now spaced instantly 3 seconds apart, and us leaving bootlegger, we can't even get on the road. I have to actually take on oncoming traffic for about maybe a good 20 seconds before I can speed up to slam into the traffic there. They've started, before Public Works agreed that they would not close the road. Even if someone pulls a 24-hour permit, they would make them open it from about 5 in the morning till 8 in the morning, and from the afternoon from about 3 to 6. On this permit, they did not keep their promise. They closed it down at 10 in the morning and went straight through till 2 in the morning. The second thing
Was
is
that on a weekday?
that was on a Friday night. So my issue is that Soledad Canyon and Sierra Highway are secondaries to the 14 freeway. So if there's one glitch in the traffic, everyone jumps off and jumps on those roads. If there's an accident at 3 in the morning, it doesn't really affect us too much. If there's an accident at 6 in the morning during rush hour traffic, those roads can be so overcrowded, it'll create a hazard for us. So that's why I'm telling them, at minimum, don't close that road during rush hour traffic.
And they've agreed.
And they had agreed, and then they said, well, is the response I got from Public Works this time, because this was for CSI crime scene, I'm sure they paid big money to come out and close that road. The response that Public Works sent me was, well, we're gonna have extra police officers to control the traffic. And my response to him was, how do you control traffic on a closed road? And how do you improve traffic on a closed road?
Yeah, because that's what they do. They just put the car there on the part that's closed, and they don't do anything for the part that's not closed.
So this was the first email when I first got that in, and the second problem we were having was that they want to come out and they say, well, we're just doing half load, but they want to do gunshots. And gunshots at night, even if they're half load, a half load on a 22 isn't very loud. A half load on a 44 caliber is very loud. A half load on semi-automatic weapons is still very loud. And everyone knows sound in Acton, I can hear my neighbors have a conversation a quarter mile away at night. So this permit came in and it was gunshots till 2 in the morning.
No way.
With the closure. So this is the email I sent off. You guys may laugh a little bit, but it said, "Hello, my name is Christopher Croisdale. I'm the Acton Town Council liaison for filming in the Acton area. I'm responding to a recent permit that was pulled to close Soledad Canyon in our town of Acton and also to have gunfire after the hours of 10 p.m. The Director of Public Works, Chris Malillo, had previously agreed to limit the closure hours of Soledad Canyon in the morning and afternoon rush hour times, mainly no closures from 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. and 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. This is for safety reasons because of the commuters passing through our town from the AV Valley. In speaking with Mr. Malillo's office, I was informed that he's not the one who approved this permit because he is also running another office at this time. Please have this error on the permit corrected to limit the closure times to what was previously agreed with the town of Acton. In the recent past, there were several discussions with Film LA and another filming company about gunfire cannot occur after the hours of 10 p.m. In our town, a simple voice conversation in the evening hours can travel thousands of feet. The area, which is now going to be used for half-load gunfire, is elevated over the Ravina area, and these gunshots, even though half-loads, will travel for miles.
Yeah, people here in the middle of town worry that there's a situation.
That's just it. And, you know, it's even us, if we're indoors, all the animals will bark all night every time they are sick. So,
We've said this to them before.
So I've continued. I said the Thousand Trails Campground has hundreds of occupants and only tents, and hundreds more in RVs and trailers, which we disturb. The Ravina area has many more homes with animals that will bark and rustle all night long from the noise. This needs to be stopped immediately, and Film LA needs to maintain continuity and standards while issuing permits in our town. The gunshots from the last filming kept entire households awake throughout the night, not to mention the lighting that left the film sites and blinded drivers. I also would like to mention that the properties that Film LA continually issues permits for is zoned A2, not commercial. But the county has turned a blind eye to permanent structures that have been erected on them, including but not limited to restaurants, gas stations, barns, electrical, plumbing, street lights, etc. All of this has been done without permits, but effectively turning the property from A2 into a commercial zoning use without any recourse. These properties have even built websites advertising these properties as filming ranches. And I went ahead and listed Pulsarosa, I listed Middleton Ranch, I listed, there's another one that says it's a filming ranch down below. If any of us went ahead and opened a restaurant on our property or went ahead and started using our property for commercial, we would be instantly thrown in jail, everything fine, they'd take our property. These people have been doing this for years. And when I talked to code enforcement, he says, we went ahead and written them all up, and we've issued citations to, they've sent Pulsarosa Ranch for their buildings, to Middleton Ranch and to the other one, but they said it's all sitting at the county level, and county has not done anything.
Well, why are they telling some people in this town that they have to take their barn down and other people not?
Well, what's going on, I think, is that code enforcement comes in, writes this up, turns it over to the district attorney, and something's going on between the district attorney and the county, saying, hey, it's filming, let it go. They're saying these are temporary film structures. They've got concrete
They've been there
foundations.
for decades.
Yeah, they're there. They're
What?
permanent structures.
You know, when we had this discussion,
According to code though, it does say that if it's a movie set, they consider it to be a temporary structure and it doesn't have to be.
yeah, except for a movie set can be a permanent structure too. I mean, it's not-
Well, the real issue is that if it's a movie set, it can be a temporary structure, but we're not living in Hollywood. Well, I'll tell you, I'll finish things. So I left the websites for all of these. They can go in and see, these are complete towns that they built in here. So I said, these companies have effectively bypassed all laws, ordinances, and human decency to make money while preventing our rights to the peaceful enjoyment of our homes, which is a clear violation of California law. Up until I turned in Film LA for mail fraud with the Postmaster General, they were also littering our town, which I did do that, littering our town with their film notifications being taped and stuck to our mailboxes, and then the wind would just blow them all over the landscape. I don't know if you saw these, these film notices blown all through the trash and everything else. Film LA is a self-serving entity that after they cash the check, they never come out and inspect a film site unless someone calls with a complaint. It would be nice if they were proactive, not reactive. It would be nice that after all the conversations, meetings, and time that the town of Acton has put into trying to work with them, that they would abide by the agreements. Every permit they issue for extra hours must be reviewed by us and brought to their attention. We must constantly remind them of the road closure restrictions. It's a battle for every permit that is issued with them in our town, and they try to get away with everything they can to get another permit out the door. They've had numerous complaints about filming after hours, yet here's a permit given 2 days in advance with late hours filmings, gunshots, and no road closure signs. It says pending a community survey, which they feel since they are more than 500 feet away from homes, they are fine and will not survey anyone. That's the other thing. They've got this within their filming standards that they only have to notify anyone if they're filming within 500 feet of you. 500 feet is most of our property lengths. So they can film next door. They feel right through the night. And if they're more than 500 feet, you won't even get a notice about this.
So let me ask, is this a letter you wrote to them?
This is an email, I'll tell you who I sent it to. With only 2 days' notice, how can, and then I said, yeah, since 500 feet are fine, and will not survey anyone. With 2 days' notice, how could they anyways? We bought our homes in Acton, a rural equestrian community which maintains a peaceful, quiet nature, not next door to Universal Studios backlot. Please respond to this email as I have CC'd Catherine Barger, the Acton Town Council, Mr. Eckert and Mr. Melillo of Public Works, Mr. Fox, Acton Town Council President. I also put in Thousand Trails Manager, Mr. Savage of the production company who pulled the permit, and Naomi Kajiyama of Film LA. So the response I got back.
When did you send that?
This was sent on, I believe, the 27th.
Just last week, so that's good, okay.
And what, yeah, it was September 27th on Wednesday. So, you know, they weren't gonna stop this building whatsoever. They went out and did it. I drove by that night. They actually had lit up the hillside, so forget about our dark sky ordinance. They had, from Soledad Canyon up into the mountain, they had lit up, it looked like almost 20 acres. They had booms, 40 or 50 feet high with lights on them, shining in. They filmed straight till 2 o'clock.
Was this CSI?
CSI,
Okay.
crime scene. Short of a lawsuit, I don't know what's gonna stop them, because
So-
it's all about money right now.
And did they respond?
What happened was, the only person that responded to this entire email was Public Works, and Chris Muller says, well, we discussed this with them, and they promised that they would have extra traffic, police officers.
Okay, so,
And so I responded back to him, I said, not sure how they can increase traffic flow on a closed road.
right,
The other one was that Catherine Barger did get the message, because she didn't respond back to me, but she actually called the head of Film LA. He called and left a message at, I want to say, almost 7 o'clock at night on Thursday. I didn't get it until Friday. And he said, yada, yada, he's the director of Film LA, he's been there 14 years. And his direct response to me, which pissed me off, was that he says, I just want to go over what your concerns are.
okay, so, okay.
So they're trying to make me happy. They don't care about everyone else. They just want me to go away.
So, okay, so,
This email? Absolutely.
we have a,
I haven't said anything, I'm afraid. I'm
it seems
ashamed
to
of.
me, we have the same situation, it's gotta be balanced.
Can you send me a copy of this?
Sure, I can.
Because we, you know, there are a lot of people in this community derive their income from the film industry. So there is we gotta seek balance. I think we can do both. And I think that there's a way to do that, but.
My main concerns, and I actually called him, because I asked everyone to respond in email, because, you know, everyone denies everything they say. So put it in writing, and they can't deny it. But my response to him verbally was that, really, I understand filming, and I understand there's a lot of people that need it, but I would think the minimum standards that we should expect here was that filming hours should be maybe 7 in the morning till 10 at night. We should clarify that filming hours includes all of their setup time, because what they're doing with the permits is they're saying, well, we're going to need a film permit from 10 in the morning till 2 in the morning. But they really are cleaning up until 6 a.m. in the morning, and they're really starting to set up at 5 p.m. in the afternoon.
And so the lights are on.
The lights are on, everything's going on. So, and they're working it, they're working the system, they're doing everything they can. So I think a set number of film hours for Acton, I don't care where it is, if it's in the mountains, if it's down here, because if they'll do it here, they're gonna do it next door to you.
Well, we've seen that with the proliferation of all the storage junkyards, because they got kicked out of Santa Clarita, they moved here. So, I mean, we're seeing that sort of amplification.
So with that, I think that's a minimum standard, is have set working hours for all of us. And the second thing I really think we need to harp on are these road closure hours. Because they'll sit there and they have that film on Friday, there was no accident on the freeway, and they think, hey, this is great, we should do this all the time. But it's that one time that it does happen that it just doesn't work. So, you know, and again.
Well, and you know what, it isn't even when there's an accident, but I don't like the idea of, because the school bus stops there at Thousand Trails, all these commuters then go to the, I don't like that. I don't, that's, so let me ask something. Should we try to put together another meeting? I mean, things got better after the last meeting, now they've deteriorated, with the head of Film LA, and somebody from the supervisor's office, somebody more substantial than what perhaps we had last time. And the highest guy up on Public Works that we can get. And then the highest person up on regional planning that we can get, because the whole zoning issue is, you know, we've talked about that before. What do you think of that idea? To try to get these things nailed down?
I'll help out any way I can.
And would you be able to go?
I'll make the meeting
Okay.
if that can transpire.
Well, do you think that's a stupid idea, or what?
No, I think,
To get these things nailed down?
like I said, it's come to this point where either Catherine Barger's gonna have to step up to the plate, because I really think it all rests in her lap. That's my personal opinion. I think Public Works has manipulated and tried to help out and appease me, and they did great for this last year and a half. And this last Friday, they went right back to their old ways, because
Right.
somebody pulled a string and wrote a check, and it was cash. So, we need something in black and white, because what they do is they'll give us a lot of lip service, and they work with it, but they always have that option to manipulate it back. It's not in writing, it's not in black and white.
Right, I'm agreeing, it seems to me that the way to get it in black and white, or cast in concrete, or whatever term you want to use, is to have a come to Jesus meeting, where these things get nailed down. And if they agree to them in principle, then we apply the pressure to get them written down as adopted policies by the board.
My personal feeling also is that have the come to Jesus meeting, and let's bring an attorney with us. And I would even pay for
No
a court
problem with that.
stenographer, even if it's $1,000, I'll put it out there and let them, I want all of their words memorialized, because they lie through their teeth. It's just one of those, political things, and that's just the way I feel.
Well, what we would need to do, actually, is make sure that it's clear that this meeting can be a public meeting, and therefore can be videoed by members of the press.
Okay.
Would that satisfy that?
Yeah.
Because we ask for meetings with the county, and sometimes the county said, oh, we'd rather have them not be whatever. But in this case, if right up front, we're like, this could be videoed, this could be, because the members of this community are concerned, or interested in the outcome, or whatever.
I think the meeting would be
would you-
great, but I think we should go in with more ammunition this time too, and.
But I also want to go in with the attitude that this community does derive income and livelihood from the movie industry. I mean, we have to, I know Chris,
Absolutely,
but
I
I think we
understand.
can hit the balance.
Yeah, I understand that, and I know some people out here bought their property specifically to make it an income-producing property.
Well, that I didn't know.
Yeah, there's a gentleman on my road when I went around talking about this, and he says, well, I bought this, so I'm gonna make my house payment. He was building stuff, and, and then there's another property where the gentleman that owned it, it's right on Bootlegger, parallel with the riverbed, and it is, I think it's 40 acres. The guy that owned it died next to the riverbed a few years ago. He's an older guy, left it to his son, who's in the movie industry, and right now that property, the guy that died, there was a big fire. It took out the house, the mobile homes, there's garbage everywhere. The guy was a hoarder. I think there's 100,000 file cabinets in there. It's just incredibly, and then there's concrete dumped all along the riverbed. And this guy has not cleaned up anything, and he's advertising it as a really crappy place to make a movie.
Do you have
That's his movie sentence.
Do you have, well, Chris, can you print out those advertisements that you're seeing? Because we'll take them with
I
us.
can find that one.
Anyone that you see like that, because that's all part of the dialogue in my mind, because these zoning issues are problematic.
Well, you
I see them
mentioned,
as problems.
you mentioned 3 movie ranches too in your email.
Yeah, one is, it's called, I think it's Cook's Movie Ranch, right? Cox Movie Ranch. There is Middleton Ranch, and there's Pulsarosa Ranch,
And Acton Movie Ranch.
and Acton Movie Ranch.
They're all on A2, I've researched them, and they all should have CUPs for any movie.
That's why regional planning needs to be stable.
So, and it's right in, I've done a little research, within the Los Angeles County codes, it's right in there, and it's also vague, but it says that movies should not be filmed concurrently on properties if it's going to, I think it's called cause a hardship on the surrounding community or
Right.
homeowners. But again, that's pretty vague, so, and it's up to the Film LA to go ahead and figure it out if it is, and they go, no, it's not bothering anyone.
Could you email well, if it's in the code, then it's not up to Film LA. So if you could send me that title and section, that would be great.
Sure. And the other thing I was gonna say, we wanna go with more ammo, because they're gonna say, well, how often can it be filmed in there? It's once every now and then. Can we do, and I know you had written it down once before I was on the council and told me to send it off, and I wasn't sure the wording, but can we do a public information request to
Yeah.
Film LA for all permits that have been pulled in Acton for the last 3 years?
Now, these are all permits that are issued by the county.
Yes.
So it is the people's business So it is subject to the public records.
I would love to see how many permits are issued in the town of Acton on a yearly basis, on a monthly basis, how many concurrent, because if we're gonna go after these Ruby ranches saying, look, they're filming like they're a backlot of Universal Studios, it's being used for commercial use. They can just say, well, it's one or two, but if we have the proof, look, there's been 36 permits pulled this year just for Middleton Ranch.
Okay, so let's, yeah, we should have that day before the meeting, I think, even. So you're familiar with the Film LA website. There should be a zipper button in there, for information request, anything like that, or?
They put the button, remember at that last meeting we had a couple years ago?
Yeah, they fixed that
They
button.
put the button on that requested that they had a complaint line.
Right.
Because, I was lost myself.
But there's no, is there a department in Public Works that does this?
No, it's Film LA handles it all.
Yeah, but somebody at Public Works signs off.
Yeah, what it is what's funny is Film LA will issue the permit contingent upon approval of all the departments.
Oh, it issues the permit before the departments have
They
approved
issue the
it?
permit first, contingent upon the other departments. And Public Works has told me in the past, he goes, well, we were gonna contest that one, but the permit was already done for this weekend. We
Okay,
didn't
so
look
do
at
you
it till
have
Monday.
copies of permits where it says that we do it contingent upon?
I can look at this other one, but that's what I was told. And I don't think it's written, that paperwork, I don't think it's written on the permit.
Okay. So, all right, so there's a couple things we have to do. The SIPR request, seems to me we should have that information.
This one here. So for the bullets, pending community survey, sometimes we'll have comments like that.
So this is an actual permit.
Yeah, that's an actual permit. I made a copy of it and included in that email when I sent it out to
And
everyone.
this is just the other day.
Yeah,
okay.
that's the one I hit him over the head.
Part of the same permit, because they were filming, I think at CIS, on Corey and the 49er.
Yep.
And.
Would be a different permit.
Yeah.
And what they'll do is,
This was Friday.
they sent out 4 different permits.
Is that the one I forwarded to
But
you? 'Cause
3
I
of
haven't got to
them,
read it.
4 of them, they sent out 4 permits, but 3 of them were just revisions. And they revise these after an hour. So it's like I'd get one and then look, oh, revision here, we want gunfire now. Oh, there's a revision here, we're gonna go till 2 in the morning. Oh, revision here. They change these things, it's so fluid. You're getting emails sometimes 6 and 7 copies of permits for one permit.
Yeah, because this is supposed to be V-Box Canyon. I don't even know where that is.
Yeah, and their locations are not accurate.
That's,
heard of it.
that's Middleton.
V-Box Canyon?
The regulation of the noise, the nuisance factor, all that is
They hate
conditions
that.
of issuance.
What are the numbers? What's the ordinance number? Is it 22 dot what?
2256, 1890 is the conditions of issuance.
Okay, I just need the number. I'll look it up. Okay, that's all I need. Thanks. So, okay, so I'd like to make a motion that we try to put together a meeting with, or put together a meeting with regional planning, Public Works.
Film LA.
I'm going slow, because I feel that when I go fast, I feel LA.
Okay.
Supervisor Barber's office.
She's under control. I
Oh,
watched
good,
her.
thank you.
I got kicked a few times.
Are we having a pregnant pause here?
No, I'm going slow.
She's
So
doing a
that's-
great job.
And Chris Croisdale,
I would also include.
that it is
highway
a
patrol
public
and sheriff's
meeting.
Got Barger.
It's a public meeting.
She's making a motion for a meeting.
Are we gonna put CHP in?
Oh, I'm getting there. I didn't know if I could talk again.
Yeah.
With sheriffs and CHP, because on Saturday it was CHP that had closed Soledad. Sheriff was on one end, CHP
No,
was on the other.
CHP, they don't call us anymore.
Okay, because you're too tough on them, aren't you? So CHP then. But Sheriff's Department maybe, anyway. Because you guys have to respond to the gunshot calls. Somebody's shooting a gun.
Did you say to make it public?
Yes.
Did you say anybody between Croisdale and sheriffs?
It's Highway Patrol.
I'll say open to the
Oh,
public.
that came after.
And
Barger.
public. Barger's, Supervisor Barger's.
I got everybody.
No, and to make it
through
public.
Chris, and then there was a bunch of talk and I couldn't hear.
Oh,
what you
to
were
make it
saying,
public?
and Sheriffs and CHP.
Yeah, and to make it public.
And to make it public.
one other thing is
No,
that.
no, oh, wait, hold on one sec, we gotta, not part of the motion. I'd like you to pursue the CIPRA, it's the California Public Records Act request. So I don't know if you can pursue it, because my plate is just overflowing.
If you can send me a sample letter or request you did before, I'll take
Yes,
care of it.
absolutely. Okay, so I'm gonna give this back to you. And if you could compile all the advertisements for people turning their,
Yeah.
it's like people advertising on A1 land, oh, it could be commercial, you know, it's
Mhm.
like, that would be very helpful. And maybe we could all get together, or a couple of us, whatever, I don't wanna be, together with you to sort of get ready for the meeting, set the agenda up and all that other stuff. Because we should have the CIPRA data before that meeting, so anyway.
Right,
Also-
and have all this, I think we should have all the times, the stipulations, everything written down.
Yes,
And, you know,
And one other thing is I think we should also try to incorporate this. It doesn't have to be added to the community standards, but our community standards should be abide by here, especially with the lighting ordinance.
Yes.
And all these lights.
yeah,
shining.
oh yeah, that's all part of it.
yes, yes.
And notice to people, interrupt compliance with 22, 56, 1890, so on and so forth.
Right.
So if you're willing to do that, and we can, so that's my motion.
Okay. Do you want me to read it?
Sure.
Jackie here made a motion to put together a meeting with regional planning, Department of Public Works, FMLA, Supervisor Barter's office, Chris Croisdale, Sheriff, and CHP, and to make it open to the public.
To get these things established permanently
Criteria.
on how filming is going to proceed going forward. Balancing, I'm sorry, I'm gonna add one more, balancing, no, we have to say it, this community derives its, balancing the community's interest in the, what do you call it? Entertainment and movie industry, or TV industry, filming industry, in general.
I just find it kind of odd that there's nothing in it for our community there, that people who have property that is being permitted for use, they got something out of it. Director gets something out of it, production crew gets something out of it. Everybody, the county gets something out of it, everybody gets something out of it except for the community of Acton, and the
Right.
residents are all being inconvenienced
Right.
by the lights, the traffic, the
Right.
noise, blah, blah, blah.
And what we asked for was, as part of the funding for these permits, it pays for an inspector here in our community to make sure that all these compliance things are met, so that Chris doesn't have to do it. And that was a key thing that we asked for, to defray the cost of it. They pay for a full-time inspector. Whenever FMLA issues a permit, that inspector's out here before car one shows up with plug one to plug in, you know, and then leaves after everybody else is gone. So that was, and that's how we sort of address that, because I don't think it's a good idea for community groups to be getting money from these sort of things, because then it looks like there's a conflict.
Yeah.
You know?
I think it's not a conflict if the money is funneled to the school system or to the parks or.
Well, no, but I mean like, but they're actual agencies. I'm talking about, like, I don't know,
I mean, you're really talking
Acton Town
Nicholson.
Council or the, well, you know, I don't think that that's an appropriate.
No, I just thought if the community's gonna be, you know, we're the ones that are being inconvenienced, I think we should have a voice in
Right.
what hours they can do this, you
Right.
know, and how
Right.
often they can do this.
Right.
And these movie ranches, I mean, I looked up under the permit viewer, and there was only one that had any permits on file, and they were for upgrading an electrical panel for agricultural use. And that
Oh.
went back to 2009. There was no unless the
Wow, that's good
CUPs
homework, Ruth. Good job.
well, I mean, there was no CUPs on file
Yeah.
in that portion of the website. I don't know if that's where you would look for them or not, but there was nothing. The other ranches, movie ranches that advertise, you go on their websites and they advertise to be used for movie sets and everything, and they had nothing on file as far as permits.
So that, knowing that is good, knowing where these are, and then looking up their zoning.
I
is
have
looking
their
up
AINs, I got their addresses, I got their
You've been working with Chris, haven't you?
What do you want?
So that's perfect. So maybe Chris and Ruth and me and a couple others, not enough to have to trigger a whole Brown Act thing, but could just sort of nail some of these things down, or we could work.
Yeah, because I have all the code pulled too. that
Oh, man,
pertains.
you got it.
Jackie, over this last weekend, they had all their parking on Crown Valley Road.
Yeah.
They park at the Presbyterian Church, they've
Yep,
got
I saw
guards
that.
there watching. They park up on
Yep.
Antelope Woods by the, so there's always congestion where they're parking their employees, whoever's coming to film. And there's a lot of cars.
Yeah, there are.
I think one of the other keys too is that we need all these different terms and stuff they use and, film time and I think we should have definitions that go with it. I know most contracts that I have to sign and go through, the first 3 pages are just definitions of the contract and the terms that are used in there. So when they say film time, that should be working hours.
So define film time and other issues.
Yeah.
It would be great if we all independently wrote down our concerns, like Pam's got yours and you, and then when we come together, we shuffle them together, synthesize them together to.
Yeah, because I'd like, I know there's an argument with, well, a film set doesn't have to be permitted, and it's temporary. As far as I'm concerned, a temporary film set should be used for one film or no more than 30 days.
Well, I'm talking about the structures that they build, like let's say a facade of a barn. They're
Okay.
saying that doesn't necessarily have to be permitted, but the movie ranch itself needs a CUP.
Right.
Well, or
But
something,
that's
because I
structure.
don't think that movie uses is a permitted use under A2.
It
So it either
is,
needs
it
a,
is with a conditional use
Okay, so it's
permit.
either-
Yeah, I've got that
Yeah.
figured
at
out
A1,
too.
I think they actually would need a variance.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's allowed even on A1, but
You can, on
CUP.
A2, you can have
Right,
movie set, but it
exactly.
has to be a CUP.
Exactly, so,
And I don't know where else you would look other than the permit viewer, if there's another place to look for a CUP on file, because I
Yeah.
can't find any record of any of them having a CUP.
the only way I've been able to do it is I literally call regional planning 213-974-6433 and give them an AIN number and they tell me what CUPs or what things, going back to the 50s, they've got it, so sometimes you can do that, but
And that CUP runs with the property, right?
not always. Some CUPs have deadlines that end.
Okay.
For
so
example,
they have
the
term limits,
CUP
but-
at Thousand Trails expired in 2006.
Yeah.
They do expire. Not all, some CUPs don't expire, but many do.
Yeah, I think the majority, they really have time limits.
Well, I don't think all these, well, the 3 that I focused on, I don't think all 3 of those have been doing this as long as that, Koch's or Cooks, or however you say that, COCH. I think they've been doing it longer because I know they filmed the duel there, so that goes back to, what, the 70s, right? Dennis Weaver.
I think the oldest one is Pulserosa Ranch, and the next oldest one I think is Middleton Ranch. I heard that was up, and it's been up and running for 12 to 15 years, and I heard that the owner of Middleton Ranch passed away, and his wife turned over the reins to a filming company that basically now leases the property from her, pays her a monthly fee, and that's their whole business now, it's just leasing that out to a film site. So, again, it's a commercial use in an agricultural.
And if they'd gone through the CUP process, these issues, no gunshots after, my opinion, after dark. I'm sorry, or no lights or whatever, these conditions would be imposed on the CUP, so we wouldn't be in this boat, so, I don't know. Yeah, I made a motion, I don't think anyone seconded it yet.
I'll second it.
Are there names affixed to this? Who's going to be the committee?
Well, I think Chris is gonna do some work, he's gonna do the CIPRA, when you get all that, give us a call, and we will call, we'll have we can have 3 people meet, right? And then we're not a quorum, so, with Chris, to hash out these things, and then present it at the next town council meeting. And
So
I
3
will
people
call
plus
on the meeting,
Chris.
huh?
3 people plus Chris.
Right,
If you
right,
want.
right.
Okay, a motion has been made,
Pam seconded.
it's been seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we are so far behind schedule.
That's okay, we'll finish.
We'll be here at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Let's
No.
do
No,
No, we won't.
No, we won't. I'll be talking to myself. Okay,
Thank you. I thought that seemed work.
This is the best.
I haven't sent you some information, I will send it. I'm sorry, I won't, I promise you, I will get it to you. I'm dancing as fast as I can.
I'm gonna say adieu.
Good night.
My daughter's got a babysitter, I gotta go, but thank you for
Sayonara.
having me speak. All right, thanks.
Thanks, Chris.
Then who was the first speaker?
Ken Whip. Yeah. And she was with Senator Scott Wilt's office. She's a really nice lady.
That's a lady that just left.
She's from Scott Wills.
Yeah. WIPFF.
Yeah.
But
He was on the
I didn't know how to spell it.
Scott Wilkes, representative's name?
Donna Hill, do
Donna
you want a
Hill.
card?
I'm sorry, yeah,
she was the lady who just left.
okay. And she was here just to listen.
I
So, I guess.
Yeah, she's a good, I like her a lot.
Yeah.
When is that?
No, she's really awesome.
Talk about Ken?
Yeah. I didn't get the paint.
I didn't even whip it.
Okay, we can move on to announcements and correspondence. Does anybody have anything?
Did we get any correspondence on the town council election? Did we get anybody?
Yes.
The time's closed. Okay,
Yes.
good. Did we get, how many people?
I have 3 in my possession.
Okay, so
Did you
we
check again
are not
today?
going to have an election then.
Pardon, did you check again today?
Yes.
Now you have,
I have it all.
So we are not having an election then?
So everyone who is sitting now has reapplied,
correct.
and there are no additional people applying.
Unless you apply,
And
Lillian.
Angela Tapia resigned.
If you take over the journal.
Oh, no.
You don't live in
I don't live in Acton.
Unlucky you.
Actually, it's not a matter of, but both communities are deep in my heart, so that's the point. So,
We feel it from your reporting.
Yes, we do.
It's true.
But I don't know
so
what.
no action.
I say
So-
he tried to call me
Okay,
because he
so,
called me.
I don't know, unless it's really.
Can we move on?
Yeah, let's do it. In fact, we should table a lot of
Point
these.
still,
Oh, okay.
you're gonna have to appoint a couple of.
Okay.
Yeah, we will deal
And then
with
you
it.
can answer me once.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, park funding, there's going to be an upcoming meeting on Thursday, October 5th, and I ordered a ticket for me and a ticket for Jackie.
Thank you very
And
much.
if anybody else wants to go, you have to go online and order a ticket for whatever reason.
It's free.
So it's free.
I'm sorry, what is this ticket to?
It's Park 102. They had Park 101, remember they were talking about how they're doing all the park funds and then
Oh, yeah.
they kind of they didn't do one up here. And so they did a quick one at an ARTC meeting and I was not very happy about it. So, because it's a lot of, well, anyway, moving on. So now they're making sure they're doing one and letting us know about it ahead of time.
The Park Funding 102 meeting will provide an update on the implementation of Measure A, and will seek your input on grant guideline topics, including eligibility, annual allocations, competitive grants, and technical assistance. You want this, Lillian? I'll bring this over later.
Where's that on our agenda? I'm lost.
This is,
It's
it's
Oh, got
not,
it, got
it's an
And it
announcement.
was October what? This
October
Thursday?
5th at 9:30 at Sergeant Steve Owens Park in Lancaster.
Okay. I have one other announcement. I've been in touch with both the Forest Service and, it was the funniest thing, the 20-year contract between the Forest Service and North Star Minerals, Inc. Was executed through the Office of the National Forest Service on Bouquet Canyon. So my wife and I drove out to Bouquet Canyon to get a copy of the information and everything, and all there is a hot shot set up. So anyway, I came back and did some research, and it turns out that, this isn't funny, but the building burned down during one of the
Buckwheat fire?
fires, and anyway, so now it's the building right here, right across from McDonald's.
And that will be manned one day a week.
One day a week.
The Matt is, as of Sunday, he is officially the point man for the north monument, the north slopes of the monument, and he will be at that office one day a week. And I didn't bring his contact information, but I can disseminate that. And anyway.
So anyway, I ended up being referred to the resource officer, who, I can't believe it, but his last name is Bear. So I'm sure his nickname is,
Smoky.
but I didn't say that, because I'm sure he's heard it before.
Yeah.
Anyway, bottom line is, the Acton clay mines, or clay quarries, a part of North Star Minerals Inc., Mining Inc., and we've been invited to come up and tour the facility.
Yeah.
And I thought as a part of that little meeting, I would air the concerns that one of our community members offered. So I'd like to know if anybody, the meeting has been set for Wednesday, October 11th at 10 a.m.
At North Star?
Yes, and they have asked that I get back to them tomorrow with the number of people who will be attending.
When does their permit expire?
2027.
2027. That's probably when they're seated. All right. I cannot make it.
But they've been there since the mid-90s. Anyway, it's an interesting operation. I've been doing a little research on it. And so I would hope that a few people could pull away, and
Yeah, I think I get the time off. I wanna go.
that would be good. So I'm going to think that you're going and Kelly's going, and Ruth, how about you?
I'm on baby watch, but I might be able to go. I'm gonna write that in my phone.
And Pam?
I'll try.
Okay, so the only definite no is
Yeah, I
Jackie.
can't come, sorry.
Okay, so anyway, that's going to be
Is this with the
cool.
Forest Service also, or just North Star?
This is
Minerals?
just North Star.
Okay.
And what Scott Richardson is the general manager. His father Larry is the founder and the president of it. And Scott said he will meet us. Do you know where 4N32 is? It's, if you go up Aliso about 4 miles, there's a little road off to the side, and it's maintained by the Forest Service.
You go
Yeah,
straight,
it's
it
a
turns
dirt.
right, it takes you basically to Arrastre and Bootlegger. It's underneath the power lines, and it's a pretty good hard-packed dirt road, probably 30 feet wide.
Little carpool.
So
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
what Scott has
Just past
said
Plum
is
Ranch.
he'd like us to meet him there at Aliso and this 4N35, and that he'll escort us then to the facility. So 10 o'clock on Wednesday, October 11th. I'll probably email everybody with a reminder.
Please,
Okay.
because they are, and then we'll find that. So do you want to meet somewhere else and then go up to the
Carpool.
4N altogether? Or do you
Yeah.
want to, you can meet at like Lackawanna?
Or we can meet at Lynn.
Or you're on the
Okay. Next is sustainable groundwater management. A hot issue.
Go Jackie.
Yes, I actually spoke with Kirk Allen today.
Who's Kirk Allen?
Kirk Allen works for Paul Massalis.
Okay.
And
Oh,
so,
he's the one that wrote that memo.
yes, Paul, yes.
Yes,
He's-
okay.
The game plan is that the first town council meeting in November will be the official GSA, the first official meeting of the East Acton GSA. And there will be apparently a gavel, and it will be a real meeting, and it will be noticed. And on behalf of regional planning, it will be, the representative will be, oh my gosh, Mitch Glazer. And on behalf of, Waterworks District 37, it will be Paul Massalis, the Selvers.
Okay.
And we had a good meeting a week ago with the water haulers, and I sent out the information. I hope everybody got it, with the contact information. Okay, and what, so it was a one-page summary of this is where we at, and this is the deal. This is where we are at, and this is the deal. So I asked Kirk several times today, in every different way I could imagine, when this GSA meeting happens and the decision is made to amend the boundary and to ask AVEC to be on the board, is that then going to be passed up to the Board of Supervisors and they're going to adopt that? Because if that's the case, then the GSA is not Paul and Mitch, it is the Board of Supervisors. Because I've been trying to get them nailed down who the decision makers are, because that's what matters. And Kirk understood my question, and he said, well, if it's an issue of finances, then we have to go to the board. But they have handed the powers to make these decisions to us. And I said, whoa, I'd like to see that conveyance of power. So he said it exists, and it's in the documents that are available on the website. I did not get a chance to pull them up on the Department of Water Resources website, not the county website. He said that they are coming up with the county website with this information on it, but it's a mirror of what's on the DWR website. He said that they understand that they have to issue a notification within 14 days, or maybe it's 15 days, of making a formal decision, and he recognizes that they have not made a formal decision yet because of that, and that their intent is to go forward with these basic boundary modifications. However, they are still rolling forward with their grant application. Now, here's the thing that is a little bit troublesome to me. The county can only do one grant application for a basin, okay? And since Leona Valley, Lakes, and Acton have all been put in the Antelope Valley Basin, we're all in one basin. So the grant application, they'd have to figure out, he goes, we have to just do one plan for all three of you. And I said, oh, no, we can't, because first of all, half of Leona Valley is in the Antelope Valley.
Yeah.
So we can't be captured by their constraint, you know? And so he goes, well, these will be some of the things that we talk about. And I said, well, you know, this is just another reason to get us out of this whole thing, right? So it was a little bit unsettling for me, the discussion I had, especially when I realized that some things might still be kicking up to the Board of Supervisors. And I'm not, that's just the nature of the beast. County Council hasn't figured out what they're gonna do. Kirk kept saying, well, it's because the state hasn't really told us what our responsibilities and powers are. I'm like, you have to do certain things. You're free to figure out how to get them done, but in the end, you have to do certain things. And he pointed out, well, you know, up in Kern, there's parts of the Antelope Valley Basin that didn't form a GSA, and now all those pumpers are getting all these letters from the state, and they're all in trouble. So, you know, we should be really happy that we formed this GSA. I said, yeah, I was on the phone with you guys in January kicking you to move in that direction, because obviously we don't want the pumpers to be getting letters from the state because we didn't form a GSA in time. But that being said, we want the GSA to do what needs to be done for this community. And so anyway, so please, I urge everybody who is concerned about this to come, because everybody in Acton will have to pay to support the GSA, whether or not they're a de minimis pumper, including people in Waterworks District 37, which don't even have ones. So I'm urging people to come to the meeting on October 6th and
November 6th.
I'm sorry, November 6th. Sorry, November 6th. And ask questions that you have, like, well, if you're going to limit my well usage, or if you're going, I'm not going to serve my customers, what's the story? So, and to point out that if you do have any surface water permits, wells, I don't know if you're able to pull any of your well permits, but maybe they're surface water permits and they've got a carve out that they got to deal with. So anyway, that's what's going on with Sigma.
Okay, now Jackie, if we're going to have this community meeting, Is this an Acton Town Council meeting, or is this a county meeting, or who is chairing this? Who has the gavel? Who advertises it?
Well, since they asked to come to the town council meeting just as a stakeholder, and I said, we don't want to talk to you as stakeholders, we want to talk to the board. I mean, if you, fine, you can come and present, but we need to have a board meeting. And then they called last week, or sent that email last week, and said, okay, we'll make it the GSA meeting. So the only way I can figure out to reconcile these two things is we open it as a town council meeting, have the flag salute, and then turn it over to the GSA.
Isn't that the waste management meeting
What?
on the 6th of November? That's our first town council meeting for the month, isn't it?
Yeah, is there a waste management schedule?
Don't we have waste management
No,
coming?
I've got the speaker coming for the next meeting, the 16th.
Oh, October.
We're gonna make that a regular meeting.
Okay, all right.
I have no idea. I don't know what. That's okay, I didn't read your email, I'm sorry.
Jackie, does that mean that once it's turned over to the GSA to conduct the meeting, at that point, can they make the motion or whatever to withdraw Acton from the AV basin?
That is the whole purpose of this GSA meeting.
Okay,
Is
and they understand that they can do that and that they are going to do it, or they just, what?
to the very best of my ability, I have explained to them that they can, and they are aware that that was the commitment that was made to this community in exchange for this community not opposing the county forming the GSA in the first place. So we will see, because
Okay.
we know, they know what we expect of them.
Right, because I went back to the meeting where Paul Musselbus spoke at the community club and looked at what he said. And though he was not absolutely committal, the indication was that they'd get us out. They'd get
Yes.
Acton out.
Yes.
Denny slipped and said that, oh, I got the grant, applied for the grant.
2 weeks ago,
Yeah,
or three, whatever it was, a month ago.
No, we don't want the grant money for us. We don't
Yeah,
want to
so
get it.
there's a lot of mixed messages.
Yeah.
That's why I've been saying we need, and I did not ask them to do the GSA meeting at the town council meeting. They asked if they could come to the town council meeting in November to get people's inputs. And I'm like, I don't want any more of those meetings. We need you guys to act.
Know our input.
Yeah, it's like, my gosh, we haven't changed our story. So that's why he suggested in that email, let's make it the GSA meeting at the town council. So in my mind, you would open the meeting, we do this, and then we'd say, okay, town council meeting is now closed. We've now.
We adjourn and they open?
Yeah, that's what I would recommend. I mean, I don't know, this is all new to me too, because this sort of has been snowballing into,
We play it
it's
by
more
ear?
thing. No, I think we need to have a plan, but I don't see why we couldn't do that.
Well, if we publish an agenda, I'm not sure what's going to be in it.
Well, last week I had to cover the CCAP stuff, and you guys gave me so much material, it literally filled the journal, as you probably saw.
I thought you did a smashing
Great
job.
This week, I'm going after SAGMA, so I'll get all of this in. plus
Okay, so
the
it is
editorial stuff by
a
Monday.
formal GSA meeting, subject, as a local agency, subject to the Brown Act, it's supposed to be noticed, there will be a public comment period, it will be, notes will be taken, I don't know if it'll be recorded, or if there'll just be a steno, or just somebody writing on a blackboard.
If this is a formal Brown Act meeting, I can't adjourn our meeting
No, just keep it on the
unless
agenda.
they have already published an agenda.
Yeah, but we have published our agenda anyway, so they have to do a 30-day notice ahead of time, so their notice should be out within the next few days. I'm
Yeah,
pretty
it's
sure
not.
it's, huh?
And if it's not,
Well, I can't, you can't get blood from a stone. I'm like, hell, I don't know.
well, the reason I'm asking is because if they don't hold up their end of the deal and publish public notice, and then, that puts you guys in a difficult position come November 6th.
Yeah,
So-
but we don't get our agenda out till,
I'm not concerned about your agenda.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
concerned with there being adequate public notice on their part so that what you're planning to do in turning the meeting over to them, that makes it an official,
That's what I said.
formal
Right.
thing.
That's what I tried to say, but you did it better.
Well, all I know is that they have agreed to make this meeting be a formal GSA meeting.
So maybe they need the first part of the meeting to be their part, their formal GSA meeting, and then we open our meeting and.
Okay, I don't care how, I have no dog in this fight, I don't care how you do it, but.
In the communication stream, who, are you going to ask them, have you published notice of this meeting?
What I'll do is I'll email Kirk tomorrow and I'll say, here's the Country Journal, here's the Acton Agua Dulce News. What outreach are you doing in our communities? They will do one page, you can do a one pager, saying this is, whatever it is, I can't, I'm not the boss of them.
No.
You know what I mean? It's
no.
like,
But if, in case they're not thinking of it, or
I
whatever.
have told them over and over and over, this is a Brown Act, your local agent, I'm not sure, county council's not convinced of this. I'm like, have you read the statute? No, I am not kidding, I got that again today. Well, we're
You
still
don't
working.
realize that they're under the Brown Act?
I'm talking to engineers, they don't even know what the heck the Brown Act is, so it's like, oh, you know what, don't repeat that, because they might actually know what the Brown Act is, and I don't know. So I will email Kirk, I will give him all I can do is put the media contacts out there and say, please, you know, let us
Public
know.
notice.
Yeah, hey.
Right, and how they see the meeting going, yes. Because maybe we open together and flag salute, you know, all together, and then they do their first part, and then we.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know if we could have a meeting going on with their meeting,
With their meeting.
or do theirs first, or do ours open, because what do we have on our agenda?
Do we?
Anyway,
Yeah.
we don't have to do anything other than, or we don't even have to have an agenda. You could suspend the town council meeting, and, because we've done that before. We've done that, didn't we do that for High Speed Rail once? It was
Yeah.
it's like, because the Acton Town Council meeting has been
Right.
canceled,
Yeah, we
and
did.
in lieu, there will be this. But
I don't remember.
Yeah,
how we
just
did
learned
it.
how to do agendas.
There you go.
Just to be on the
I
safe
have no idea.
side, you might want to, you know, close your meeting and then open a public hearing for their sake, a GSA public hearing, and reserve the right to hold, you know, your meeting afterwards to return to your, I mean, the school
to
board
decide
does-
if we're gonna launch a tar and feather action, or,
Yeah,
For whatever.
there you go.
No, the school board does this all the time.
Oh, what do they
have
do?
public hearings on charter schools. And they will open their meeting, they'll go through a certain amount of procedure and then a certain amount of things on the agenda. Then at a certain time, they'll, you know, adjourn to a public hearing and conduct the business of the public hearing. And
Okay,
then
we
come
can do
out
it
of the
that way.
public hearing, note the time, and then go back to their regular meeting
Well, let's
before
do
taking
that. I'm
any
good with that.
votes.
That sounds good.
So
Yeah, it
that's
does.
just
You guys
formal
figure out
procedure.
that stuff. Yeah,
So
that's
just
good.
leave yourselves that option to reconvene.
Okay.
Yes, and then you can reconvene.
Especially if people don't feel like they gotta be heard. And so, okay. So you guys, however, I'm good with whatever you wanna do. I will just make sure Kirk has all the information
Okay.
and contacts.
And then I just wanted to bring up, I was with Acton Water today and Carson Water. We just talked a little bit about our own hydrology reports we have to take care of apparently. And Acton Water is in the process of getting their new CUP for the next 10 years or however it is.
Right.
And apparently Water District 37 recommended that the board does not approve a new CUP for Acton Water.
But wait, stop. Have they submitted an application for the CUP?
I don't think they've submitted it yet, but they're in the process of getting the things ready to submit it.
Okay.
I believe so.
So the
So that's
CUP
it.
should come to the town council.
Right, and that's why I don't think it's happened yet, because, yeah, we haven't gotten
Right.
it. And
So I am
District
concerned.
37 is saying, recommending not
not
to
to
read.
approve.
Okay,
Well,
so
because you can't,
Okay,
you're not
then-
renewing a CUP, you have to. pay
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
I would like to,
So-
I'd like to
so
make a
that- I
motion.
knew.
I'd like to make a motion. It's
Oh
gonna
my
require
God.
work for you to do.
Yeah, no,
That, because we have an agenda item, so let's quickly move to, don't we have water on here somewhere?
Yeah.
Public
We're
Works
on
and
it.
Utilities. We're
Oh,
moving back to
oh,
Public Works.
Right.
That Dylan contact Waterworks District 37 and ask them for a copy of any communication they've sent regarding that, their position on a potential CUP for Acton Water.
How can they already be saying that, Jackie?
Because they want control of the water, and from what I understand, they've been holding off on CUPs for Lundy and for Carson, and they're kind of trying to bring them all together at the same time. Is that the case?
They can't, because they have different expiration dates.
I think
That's
Carson.
how they're getting around them.
That's
Their
the thing.
expiration dates were long ago, and they've been just holding off.
Okay, so let me, you convey this to your water hauling friends.
Something's
Yeah.
fishy.
There, okay,
Yeah.
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
listen very carefully. If there's a CUP that's due and it expires, they could come in and shut you off, okay? So if you submit a timely application for a CUP under what's called the Permit Streamlining Act, they have to act within their 10-day timeframes, 20-day timeframes, and 30-day timeframes. And so they cannot kick the can down the road like this and line you all up to be knocked down like bowling pins. So if you are aware that your water hauling community, you guys have expired CUPs, and you just think things are rolling down and it's gonna be fine, I urge you to reconsider that.
Oh, no,
I-
as Lillian said, I think Carson's is expired or has been, and they've been trying to get it.
They applied a while back.
That's what it was.
Okay, well,
Before it expired,
you tell them
Before it
to
expired.
cite
Yeah.
the Permit Streamlining Act.
And
So
now,
you
now
cannot,
the county's just
it's
dragging
called,
it
look
on
it up,
so
it's called the
that,
California Permit Streamlining Act.
that's
Wow.
disgusting.
And if your application is deemed complete, they have to move forward. So, and they can't just say, well, it's not complete, and not tell you what it's not complete. Because if you give them a completed application, that permit is due within 60 days, unless they require some sort of EIR or whatever, which they cannot do if you're not increasing the amount, if you're not seeking an increase in the usage. There's no impact on the environment. You're not creating any significant or any change, physical change in the environment, if you're just continuing operation as usual.
And that's what we've been doing, and they checked the
So-
water levels recently, it was not less, like, we're not taking more than what's being refilled.
Yeah, it doesn't.
And so they're telling Acton Water to do more hydrology reports, which are
They
like
cannot-
$40,000. And then they emailed Acton Water that, and they didn't email me or Carson, but to Acton Water, they said, oh, you and Lundy Water and Carson all have to get new hydrology
Well, you need
reports,
to
but
tell
they
them-
didn't tell us
Tell
that.
them, show us where the code requires that. So you only do hydrology studies the same time you only do biology assessments. It's if you're assessing a significant impact from a project you're doing. But if you're not doing anything different from what you've been doing forever, there is no physical change to the environment. Therefore, they have no basis for doing an EIR or even a neg deck. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, absolutely, and
So-
you're right.
I know I'm right. This is what I do for a bloody living, so
Yes.
I'm sorry.
I just don't want
No,
the three companies
But I
to
don't,
get
and
taken
unfortunately,
for
I
a
am
ride.
too
But-
swamped to
Yeah.
help you guys.
Oh,
That is what you
that's-
need to
that's
do,
why-
just do
That's
that.
why I joined the council in the first place, because I knew this was gonna be happening at some
Move in that
point.
direction, okay?
Yeah.
You call up regional planning, or tell them and say, why is my permit not done? I'm going to invoke the PSA. Why do I have to do a hydrology study? I'm not changing anything. There's no physical change in the environment. There's no EIR, not even a neg deck required. You're exempt. I'm sure that there's a categorical exemption under CEQA that if you're not changing anything physically in the environment, there's no environmental assessment. Am I making sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
You
mean,
guys are
it's-
all really quiet.
No, it's disturbing.
Appalled, I think.
It's
Well,
disturbing.
I don't know
to think.
what the basis for that, so they
Yeah, I
need
just
to,
found out about this
maybe it's a
today.
state law that they have to do a hydrology study. If it's a state law, that's different, but if it's CEQA, there's no CEQA
We're
action.
gonna put them out of business.
That's exactly what they want to
And
do.
all the people that
Yeah, this
rely
is
on
me.
those three companies, what happens to
She
them?
should have
then?
told us. She should have mentioned that the other night, or whoever.
Oh, I just found out about it tonight.
I know, but she should,
I
Well,
said
that was
they're smart
Amber
enough
back
to
in
figure
water.
out that they're probably
With the
not gonna
hydrology
problem.
oh,
report.
okay, well, she should have mentioned
As
that.
well as the district.
I get the people
Well,
like to
see,
keep their
what-
business.
What happens is that District 37 can literally take over and
Yeah.
deliver water
Oh.
to those people with, just by ruining the 3 water companies, they take over the water deliveries, and now you're paying District 37 for hauled water instead of paying,
That's
it's called robbery, it's called,
I don't-
it's called so many things that are not
Fraud.
I'm not,
Theft.
right, I'm like pretty close to exploding right now, so I can't hear this. I'm gonna have to leave if we keep talking about how bad this is, because all I've dealt with all day today are these kind of issues on 50 different fronts, so I'm full right now.
Okay, before
I don't want to stop you from talking, but I can't.
before we move on, Lillian,
She did.
whatever you put in the Country Journal is going to serve as notice to the community relative to the November 6th meeting. And so I don't have to worry about that.
Whether or not Public Works gets in touch with
well,
you,
the
so,
formal notice must come from them,
right.
but I can give general notice to the community, sure.
Okay, thank you.
If it's formal, it'll have to go through the Acton Agua Dulce News because they're adjudicated and I'm not.
Well, I'm gonna ask them to send it to both.
That's fine, I'll be happy to carry public notice.
Did you make a motion, Jackie?
She did.
Yes.
Started to.
No, I thought I did.
Well, you did, and I hope I got it right, so I'm just gonna read it real quick, and then you can tell me if I got it right.
Oh, just a minute, I don't want her to explode.
She won't explode.
I was calm when I made this motion. I'm a little simmered now, right?
Breathe and then smile.
Jackie Ayer made a motion for Dylan Lundy to contact Waterworks District 37 and ask for any, this is where I'm not quite sure. I got this
Any
wrong.
information
Any
on,
comments that have been made on new water hauling company CUPs?
yeah, I would say
I would
any position
Any positions?
or opposition to water hauling permits in the community.
Okay.
And then it's just, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
On behalf of the Acton Town Council, because I think we need to know about these things.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
that's, once I found out about it today, I was like, okay.
So not just one person, but we want to understand what your position is. Send us your, whatever emails you've sent out, you know, whatever, so, whatever you can get from them. And it's going to be somebody named Adam Ariki is who you want to, A-D-A-M-A-R-I-K-I. He's the head of Waterworks District.
Positions or oppositions to water companies?
What's his last name, Jackie?
Ariki, A-R-I-K-I.
Kelly, you got that?
I think she said condition.
Because what bothers me is,
Have you got the
It's-
motion?
I think so.
Is there a second?
I'll
Yeah.
second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
because after you, it's gonna be the Blum Ranches. And the,
And here's,
and the Tippies and the, it's like,
exactly.
not that I
It's
care
gonna
about you, I don't
mushroom.
care about you, but I care about them.
It's gonna mushroom into the whole.
Can we move on to Community Standards District?
Okay, at the ARTC, let's make this brief, because I know we're all tired. The ARTC meeting, the consensus among the rural town councils was that they would not pursue the sort of joint template program for the CSD development. I pointed out that this town council had agreed to at least go that route if it was gonna work, with the proviso that we had a jump out point if it was going south. And so I said, I don't think, if you're gonna take a position on this, the Acton Town Council will abstain, because our position's different from yours. So, but they never took a position on it, so, anyway, and Susie is not going to be at the October ARTC meeting, so Susan Zonter's still trying to get her to come in. That's it.
Okay.
I have one community standards comment. At our last meeting, I was asked to write to Donna Termier to follow up on the ban on additional drive-throughs for Acton, and we wanted to know when this item was going to come up on the Board of Supervisors agenda. Could you offer any insights into the scheduling? We hope that you will be able to find time in your busy schedule to attend more of our meetings. Your assistance and insights have been invaluable, and she hasn't responded.
I did talk to her today. She called me I had asked her why the homeless consortium meetings are always on top of Acton Town Council meetings, every one of them, except for the very first one, I think that you went to. And she said, well, that's just when the contractor, she called me because she didn't want to spend a lot of time writing it up on the email, which is great. And so I said, she goes, yeah, one of the reasons I haven't been going to the town council meetings is because she's been going to these homeless consortium meetings. And the next one is, tonight, and the next one is at the next town council meeting on October 16th. So I said, well, if you can make the November 6th meeting, that is a really important meeting, and I explained to her why. And she said, well, I'm trying to get somebody hired in this office, because that will free me up, a deputy to her deputiness, whatever that is. And that'll free her up for a lot of things. She goes, but I will make it to your November meeting, now that I understand what it is. And you guys have been on the forefront of this, so she will be here at the November meeting. But she cannot make the October 16 meeting because of the consortium.
Did she happen to answer?
I didn't ask her that, but I'll tell you what, Russ, I'm not too worried about this because the planning commission's already approved it. So anybody who submits an application for drive-through is not gonna go anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I understand your concern, but if I have to choose between which thing I can beat on the supervisor's door with, sorry.
Well, I thought it would be nice if I could have asked her at the
You can ask her in November.
ARTC meeting,
Yeah.
but she wasn't there either.
No. You can ask her in
Anyway.
November, so she'll be
Okay.
there.
Next item on the agenda is traffic safety. The only thing I have to say is kind of a repeat of what Tom said at our last meeting. I watched the video of the school board meeting, and it's pretty clear that the school board intends to really restart that process of the safe route to school, and they recognize the fact that nobody's doing anything relative to the crossing of the kids at the freeway exits and entrances and
There's
everything.
not even crosswalks on
And,
two of them.
So anyway, but it sounds like they're getting Caltrans, they're getting everybody involved.
Well, I
this
gave them the
time.
Caltrans number, so, and we're supposed to be at the table. The Acton Town Council is supposed to be as much at the table as anybody else, so.
And from the meeting that the school board had, it sounds like the thing is well in hand and going to be in process. Now, who do we get in touch with relative to being invited to the table?
Well, I had that meeting with the acting supervisor and Tracy Costin, who's on the committee for a committee member for the Acton Town Council. And with the acting superintendent, the new superintendent started was 2 weeks ago. And he's supposed to be running with it and contacting the Caltrans person, Gilbert Soy, and Acton Town Council. And I asked him for several dates that people could make it, so that, they don't just give us one date, and then if we can't make it, we're not at the table. So they said they wouldn't be doing that. So he should be getting back to us soon. And I know that Mark is going to be pushing on that. He's not on the board for much longer, but as long as he's on the board, he's going to be pushing in that direction.
So Mike,
How long do we wait before we?
I don't know.
Mike Fox is the president, and I'm sure he'll be a good contact, maybe. I'm concerned.
Do you want to call Mike then?
I will.
I'm concerned when Mark leaves that things might not be quite as, it's another story altogether.
A lot of people are concerned,
Good
Very.
reason. Good reason.
very concerned.
He's a driving force, and they're
Yeah.
using him.
I was gonna call him and beg him again. I know it won't work, but
Well, it's,
I know he's,
I don't blame him at
Yeah.
all. After 12 years, he's had it. And his wife isn't ill, as in well, so.
oh, I didn't know that.
Okay, anything else on that issue? Okay, we'll move on to CCAP.
Okay, so the Acton Town Council wrote a long letter, and SORT wrote a long letter. And in response, was it Thursday? Pretty fast, actually.
Yeah, it was.
Late Thursday afternoon. They sent us a revised version of the ordinance. And they have changed what used to be something called prohibited areas are now exempt. So it's 180 degrees out from where they had gone. And made other changes that look like there's still uncertainty that it's 100% safe for A2 because it doesn't say anything about A2, but it only says things about A1. But if we were able to get a letter from regional planning stating the policy that will go along with this ordinance is that A2 uses are not subject, A2 uses, secondary land uses under power lines on A2 zone property are not affected by this ordinance in any way. If we could get that letter, then I will feel 100% sanguine with the changes that they've made. Without that letter, I'm a little bit uncomfortable with it. Now, they have agreed to meet with us. I don't know if they've thrown out any dates.
I'm current with the email.
Nothing, so
Nothing.
could somebody drop them a line? Because I wrote on behalf of SORT, I responded, because SORT got a response, a letter that was a little bit snippy, but I won't go there.
I thought it was great.
No, their letter to SORT.
Oh,
Yeah.
snippy?
Well, there are not that many A1 properties
How
involved,
dare
so it's like, whatever. But anyway, my shoulders are broad, I can take it.
Yeah.
But I told Adrian, the letter wasn't from her, she's a very nice lady, I like Adrian. But at any rate, I said, thank you for these changes, it looks like it addresses SORT's concerns with respect to A1. But nonetheless, I look forward to meeting with you on this issue, because she had mentioned that she would do that. So I think somebody in the Acton Town Council probably needs to send, and it probably shouldn't be me, because I've already sent one from SORT, saying, when can we meet, because this is going back to the board next week. Now, I'm out of town next week, so.
Didn't they say it could be postponed until we were able to get it all
Yeah,
hammered out?
That's what they said. However, my understanding is that they received a grant from the state to implement the CCAP ordinance. And that grant requires the money to have been spent by 2017, the thing has to be in place by 2018. So they're on a fast track to get this. It is very unusual for the county to schedule a public hearing mid-month, because public hearings are only held the last Tuesday of the month.
Yeah.
So the fact that they would do a mid-cycle means that they're in a hurry. So what I had suggested was that since this power line thing is not a CCAP element, it is an element done in response to the board saying, can we put parks under power lines? So it's separate. I asked them to pull out all the power line stuff so we could study it carefully and go forward with the CCAP stuff. Because by and large, that was not too bad. But I think that fell on deaf ears, so.
Help me with the exact wording here. If we could say secondary land uses, blah, blah, are not affected or are exempt from, with A2.
Well, I don't want to say this to them over the phone. This is what we want to say to them in the meeting.
Okay.
The policy letter you're talking about?
Then I'll send the letter
I would just
saying
call.
when we can meet.
Yeah, you can call or drop them an email saying, hey, we're looking forward to this meeting, when are we gonna do it? You know what I mean? Because I think that the other thing needs to sort of be a back and forth. I appreciate what you're saying, but I don't know if we want them here on our little web before we spring on them.
We want them on our turf.
Did they have any comment about all the errors that you pointed out to them?
I didn't see anything in the SORT letter.
They would never have done this so quickly, I don't think, if they hadn't been humiliated by what they had given us.
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, it was terrible.
I
It
mean,
was
the
embarrassing.
fact that you caught the ordinance numbers overlapping, that was,
That was shocking.
that was shocking. I can see the typo, the 2-foot thing, that was kind of like typical.
Yeah.
And maybe the A2 being omitted, we didn't know if that was just an error or if they, what they wanted to do with that, but that whole numbering, oh my God, that's unforgivable.
Okay.
I want my
But
county
I
tax
don't-
dollars spent better next time.
I suggest we not dwell on that at the meeting.
Yeah.
You know me,
They changed all that.
Okay, the next,
Policy letter be sufficient?
well, if it's a letter that says this is how this will be interpreted going forward, I'm 90% comfortable. 10%, you get in front of the right judge, you can make any argument fly. So that 10% is a little bit uncomfortable for me. Or, more likely, an inspector coming out saying, well, secondary use power line not allowed, and then you can whip this policy. I'm like, well, have you changed this policy? Otherwise, this policy is still in effect.
Policy.
It's a Band-Aid, but
It's the old policy versus ordinance thing.
I agree. But if we have a policy that's rooted in the ordinance and says this is how we interpret
Then
it,
you've got a better chance.
that's what I'm
That's all
looking
you've
for.
got, a better chance. I understand your frustration.
okay, thank you.
Moving right along.
We're going to move on to commendations and logo. We know that we're going to do a commendations plaque for both McDonald's and Don Chatta, or Don Chatta. Ruth's daughter is working on the logos and has some beautiful logos put together for it. So I would like to have Ruth make a motion that she give us copies of the logos and that we vote electronically.
I will send them all by email to you guys, and you can look at them, and you can give your input on which one you like best, or whatever.
Do you want to make a motion on that?
There's, I
Yeah,
just
we didn't
explained,
that.
yeah, I just explained that, my daughter created different types of logos, and some of them are focusing on more Western, some of them focus on Western combo minor.
They're all
They
beautiful.
mention the establishment year, Acton, some of them look like they could be Acton town logos, I mean, they're really cool. But we have to pick the one that best represents town council, and then you could pick more than one. You could use one for letterhead, and you could use one for the plaques that might, be better for that, and then she'll fine tune them and do whatever. But
No,
they're-
thank you very much.
yeah, they're pretty cool, so I've got those in an email, and I have them on my iPad, but I'll send them out.
So we'll be able
It's
to
a
choose
new-
for the plaque and maybe for a letterhead too?
Yeah, but there's at least 6
Wow, she did a lot of
to
work.
choose from.
I saw the one, I didn't,
Yeah, there's like 6,
Beautiful.
and, yeah. So you guys can just give me your 2 cents on them and tell me what you think.
This is your Christmas present. Anyway, they're beautiful, so I'm excited about that. Are we ready for the next subject? That
Yes.
would be trash. I have somehow inherited this subject, and I'm the trash king now. Thank you all. I've spoken with Public Works. There's been so much talk in the community about waste management, people
Yes.
wanting Burtec, and people calling Burtec, and Burtec
Yes.
saying, no, we can't use the Palmdale dump, and we just use the municipal dumps and owned by the county, and so we're not gonna service Acton. And I had a nice conversation this afternoon with David, initially David Perez, and then one of their engineers, Sue Chong. And so anyway, I've scheduled.
from Burtec.
No, from the county public works,
Oh, Public.
environmental department. And these are the people that manage the permits, or what they call non-binding, non-exclusive franchise agreements. So, anyway, I told him that really what we want to explore is what waste management owes our community based on what we're paying, which includes recycling, which is good for the planet, which is good for the state, which is good for the town.
State law.
And they're not doing it, and they're telling people that they're doing it, but we see them just dumping everything in the landfill in Palmdale. what are the other issues? Everybody is up in arms, and I said, I'm gonna hold a public meeting, and we invite you to it. We appreciate a presentation of what we should be able to expect from this agreement. We'd appreciate your input and insight into how we might be able to get some competitors into town. And finally, we need to know the best way for us, working with you, to hold Waste Management's feet to the fire, to accomplish what they have committed. And so anyway, they are going to be the first speakers on our meeting 2 weeks from today.
Public Works will be here.
Public Works, Sue Chong and Steve Maluski.
Public Works will be.
Public Works,
When are they gonna be here? Sorry.
2 weeks from today, the 16th.
So hopefully everybody will be able to come to this who've talked
Well-
about the trash issues.
I'm gonna be like Ruth and probably get myself kicked off of next door, but there's been so much on next door. I'm gonna publicize it. I'm gonna publicize it on next door, and I
Yeah.
hope Lillian will put something in the Country Journal, because this is something that a lot of people are hot about. You know, they're really upset about it.
And maybe if people from Agua Dulce want to come.
Sure.
Yeah, it's all over the
Because it's-
Facebook pages too, like
Yes,
Facebook
it
has
is.
an Acton Agua Dulce news page.
I don't know Facebook, I don't do Facebook. Maybe somebody could do Facebook?
I don't do this.
Dylan.
Yeah, I could go on it.
Dylan, boy, two assignments today.
I'm into it.
Public
I
Works.
thought you were a hey-do or whatever.
Oh, yeah, just a little bit, it's a balance, a healthy balance.
Tonight is all about
Did you
that.
know
What's
that?
word?
She's okay.
No, I didn't know that, I thought it said
Hey, dude.
hater.
Yeah, I was like, what's a hey-do? I thought it was hey-do, like hoodoos in Utah, you know, the hoodoos.
If you need any names or anything like that, let me know.
Yes.
Okay, unpermitted pre-existing structures, Ruth Brock.
Oh, that would be me. All right. Now, this has been something that we touched on and just never quite.
I've never been able to get a meeting on it, never, they've never.
I just think and we're trying to get all these meetings and it's like an act of God. So, I was looking at this from a different standpoint, like Jackie was saying, what she thought it would take to make the county maybe move on creating a path for property owners that have a pre-existing structure that they bought their house and there it was and it doesn't meet code and,
Yeah.
okay, so,
We all know.
Yeah.
We all know.
so this is just kind of, I'm just pie in the sky here.
This looks good to me.
These are the things I thought, in order to get the county to even move on this, it's what's in it for them, right? Because that's what they're gonna look at, what's in it for us. So if we create a path that replenishes lost funds to them for the permits they're not getting. Their whole thing is, I looked on their website and I looked at why they permit. Like from their website, I wanted to hear from their lips why they create permits, what their explanation is. And their explanation is basically for public safety, it protects your property investment, blah, 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 protects the basic, public in general. And it helps them to be able to back you up in the event you're ever sued. They can come and say, oh, well, look, they've got all their inspection records, it's blah, blah, blah. It's all about money, we know it. So these are just going down the list here real quick. If we could clarify why the county requires building permits, safety, liability, revenues. We need to release the county from liability through indemnification. So if we could get the homeowner to sign a waiver releasing the county and assuming all responsibilities for the unpermitted structure.
And there is precedence for that, that area down there in La Conchita?
They did a clean hands waiver there.
Oh, yeah, and they let those people rebuild, and it gets mushed with mud, and they rebuild and mushed with mud, because the county's hey, as long as we're not on the hook, and it's not a public, you know, it's not a commercial building where the public would go.
I did read where the county really only issues up to 4, right now, up to 4 clean hands waivers a year. That wouldn't do, so we need to break that mold,
Yeah.
okay? So, 'cause
Wait,
they're talking-
LA County only issues 4?
that's
Yeah.
what it said on the
Right,
web.
yeah, because I think La Conchita, there is no limit, they just let them all keep building.
Oh, I'm talking about La Conchita, I'm talking about, that's right, La Conchita.
No, I'm talking
you're
about the- where the-
Chiquita Canyon is what I
Oh,
was
no,
thinking.
no, where the mud falls down and
Right.
it's in Santa Barbara
Those,
County.
those people all sign waivers that they know it's a
That-
geologically unstable area.
Yeah, that's, and so the county's like,
There's
okay,
like
go,
crushed
go,
houses.
go.
Okay, so,
People died.
so
Yes,
we
they
have them
did.
sign a waiver releasing liability from the county, and they assume, assume the liabilities. Then we can get the homeowner to be given a clean hands waiver. The county can impose, let's say, because this is where they have to get their money somehow, right? So they can impose a fee at that time saying that you're acknowledging that this unpermitted structure exists, blah, blah, blah. So there, in other words, instead of a building permit fee, they're gonna get this fee for letting you have it, right? And then, they're gonna also get a small fee because they're gonna go through the motions of disclosing this on your title. So that's another little amount the county will make when they have to put this on your title. So that'll be in records or whatever. The county can charge a future homeowner that's buying your property a small fee if they want to keep the unpermitted structure, right? But that property owner is actually compensated because there could be a reduction in the price of purchasing the property
Right.
because it's got unpermitted structure on it. So technically, they're getting a deal on buying the property because it's got unpermitted structure. But they also, in the escrow, would probably have to pay a fee for assuming that, and in other words, taking responsibility for it. I'm just trying to say,
Yeah.
these are things that the county's gonna look at, what's in it for us?
Right.
Because they're not gonna just give it all to the homeowner and say, okay, you could have your unpermitted
Right.
structure.
I'm not sure we want to give all of these giveaways, but
Well, it's not, there's only.
clearly thought about all of them.
There's
so it's
only
very good.
little, these are, the thing with the new homeowner is it balances out with that they're getting probably a reduction on price. But it might affect the selling price of the house that it has unpermitted structures.
Yeah.
So they're getting a better deal on the value of that property. They could also choose to demolish the structures if they don't want them and don't care about them, then they can just